Good evening. Welcome to the special meeting for the Cleveland Community Police Commission Investigations, Discipline, and Police Accountability Committee. This is a special meeting to deal with some emerging issues. We had some technical difficulties, but we are streaming now at 6:10. We're beginning the meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order and welcome those here and also online. And we will can start with a roll call. Commissioner Chura.
Present.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson.
Present.
And I'm Commissioner Wong, and I'm the chair, and I'm present. So we want to first welcome Ms. Garrett Ferguson to our accountability committee. She's a new member, so we're very happy to have her. And right now we're going to review the agenda. Is there any changes? There was just one small change. I added reviews or records requests to the first motion because I think we should just redo. I'll explain when we do the motion. We just kind of redo the process and make sure both cases are done in the same way. And that was the only thing that I changed. Are there any questions or?
I was thinking, is there a possible way, maybe under new business, that we talk a little bit more about the records request?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking more in regards to, like, I know we made that motion and we talked to the co-chairs about getting the disciplinary records, but there's like some backlash, and so I wanted to know, I didn't know if they would go under this committee or reach another one. Is it something that Attorney Wallet can look into as a potential conflict if we keep getting stopped with getting the disciplinary records?
Right. So there was a motion pending from the last meeting to establish a conflict of interest with Mr. Wallach. I'm happy to have the discussion about maybe, not that this committee would necessarily, because we haven't decided, Co-Chair Adams, which committee is going to be taking care of that, right? Or if it's just going to be a volunteer group of commissioners.
Wednesday.
Okay, we'll decide on Wednesday, but we can talk about, anything that you want.
Yes.
There is going to be a motion, and it is primarily, I think, this committee that has a lot of the records outstanding. So we could add that to the agenda item after new business if you'd like.
Okay, because I think for the outstanding motion we have for Wallet, it's around the mayor's decision to deny hiring. Could we add, I don't know if it has to be another motion, if we agree to add for him to look into the records issues? Would that have to be a separate motion or a separate contract?
There was a separate motion. It was in the packet.
Okay.
So we can do that. I mean, we could also make the motion here and then reinforce that this committee is okaying that motion, and we can move it forward to the full commission. But because we can discuss it after, we'll put that in conflict of interest for records.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And is there anything else? Is there any public comment at this point? Or we can wait until the end. Okay, no public comment. Okay, so why don't we just jump into these motions? So just to give the audience and people here a little bit of background, we have received since December 2 petitions from community members to look into two previous OPS complaints. One was received December 26th of last year. Ms. Johnson, Doreenza, is that how I pronounce it? Doreenza Johnson?
I believe so.
Okay, I apologize, Ms. Johnson, if I'm mispronouncing your name, but and that is connected to the first motion. The second motion is a petition from Mr. Antoine Tolbert. So the reason that I'm proposing these motions is that while we have a procedure set in 2.44 for our process to take outside appeals on previously adjudicated decisions, this is the first 2 cases that we've had. And this is the committee that is responsible for doing the primary kind of analysis for the information for those cases. So as we see through the motions, it is to help kind of flesh out that process a little bit more and make sure that there is transparency in this, such that, this is our first go at it. So I want to make sure everything is airtight. So that's just the rationale for these motions. Versions of these 2 motions were to be presented last time, but we ran out of time at our full commission meeting, and I'm imagining Co-Chair Adams, they'll be on the agenda for the full commission on Wednesday. Thank you so much. So the first one is motion to open review records request and notification process regarding OPS complaint 2019-0141. And we have given an internal designation. Mr. Goodard, I think you just made a small, because it's, it's between years, CPC complaint. I'm going to call it 2024-01. I know it's labeled as
It
2023.
actually came in 2023, so it's 2023-01.
So then the
So it
Mr.
came in December 26th of 2023, so it's our first case from last year.
So then you want to label Mr. Tolbert as 2020-01.
24-01.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a little, okay. So we will just change those things.
So we're gonna do numbering system consecutive by they come
Okay.
in year and then complaint number.
Okay.
So which one are we changing to 2023?
Ms. Johnson's case is 2023-01. We came in kind of in this middle portion that I think Ms. Shelley was the person that took it. So we'll just still call it 2023-01. And then Mr. Tolbert's is 2024-01. So we can update that in the motion and we can pass it, those minor changes. But if, Ms. Garrett Ferguson, if you would not mind, because I cannot make the motion, if you would not mind reading the motion for the first motion for Ms. Johnson's complaint.
Sure. I move that we open review and do a records request and notification process for Ms. Johnson's case. And so whereas the commission's charter grants the commission the power to, at its discretion and upon notice, hold evidentiary hearings to review individual officer discipline following any proceedings and decisions by the chief of police, executive head of the police force, and as applicable, the Civilian Police Review Board. Any order by the commission to increase or impose discipline will be final, and the chief and executive head of the police force must follow it. Whereas on August 19th, 2019, Ms. Dorinza Johnson filed an OPS complaint against Patrol Officer Luther Roddy, badge number 1753, for lack of service. Whereas on August 11th, 2020, the Civilian Review Board exonerated Patrol Officer Luther Roddy for lack of service provided to Ms. Dorinza Johnson. Whereas the Commission's Procedure 2.44 states, per Charter 115.5, the Commission is authorized to conduct independent investigations and or evidentiary hearings into any previously adjudicated discipline decision for the purposes of increasing discipline or initiating discipline where none was imposed. This is a discretionary power and can be initiated by the Commission or requested by a member of the public. The appeal process is not automatic and must be via petition. Petition shall be received in one of the following ways: by a member of the public at an open public meeting, by a member of the public via a written request, and by a commissioner on behalf of a member of the public. And sorry, it's all. Whereas on December 26, 2023, Ms. Dorinza Johnson made a formal request to the Commission to review OPS complaint 2019-0141 and another OPS case from December 20th, 1999. Whereas the Commission's Procedure 2.44 provides that an initial analysis be completed within 15 days of receiving the petition. Once completed, the analysis shall be discussed and voted upon in a Police Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee meeting. If no committee meeting is scheduled, one will be scheduled for the specific purpose of publicly discussing the petition and analysis without delay. Witnesses related to the discipline case shall not be called at this point. The committee will then vote to approve the petition and proceed with an evidentiary hearing before the entire commission or to deny the petition. A majority vote of the committee will carry a motion related to a petition. And whereas the commission's charter in section 115.5 provides it the authority to request and timely receive without the need for making a formal public records request from other city departments and offices, including the Division of Police and Director of Public Safety, and information relevant to the Commission's duties that must be disclosed if requested under the Open Public Records Act. And whereas the Commission's charter in section 115.4 requires that the chief, the executive head of the police force, the board, and Community Police Commission must timely and consistently notify complainants about and afford complainants the right to be heard in every step of the disciplinary process without limitation, and from investigation through hearings, reviews, and internal appeals, arbitrations, and court proceedings. Complainants cannot be excluded from being informed about or from being heard during these processes and have a right to intervene. Now, therefore, the Police Investigations Discipline and Accountability Committee resolves as follows. The Accountability Committee will make a motion at the next full commission meeting to open OPS Complaint 2019-0141 for review. Request that OPS send the records listed in item number 2 and notify all parties according to the instructions listed in item number 3. The Accountability Committee will request the following records from OPS Complaint 2019-0141, as well from Ms. Dorenza's 1999 OPS complaint related to a similar matter. Notification of investigations. Full OPS investigative reports related to the disciplinary recommendations for Patrol Officer Luther Roddy. All body cam footage involving Patrol Officer Luther Roddy. All other divisional notices related to Patrol Officer Luther Roddy on OPS Complaint 2019-0141 and Ms. Dorenza Johnson's 1999 OPS complaint. This motion will serve as the Commissioner's records request in this matter to the relevant parties. The Executive Director shall send this motion as the Commission's records request on this case and notify the entire Commission of any updates on this record request. Oh, okay. The Accountability Committee will also assess the following records related to OPS. I don't know if this is going in and out, I'm sorry. Complaint 2019-0141. Initial analysis provided by Interim Executive Director Jason Goodrich. 10/8/19 Art Broker interview audio file. 10/8/19 Art Broker interview audio file number 2. 19-141 Dorenza Johnson exonerated disposition letter. 19-141 Dorenza Johnson's hearing notification. 19-141 Patrol Officer Roddy's 1753 notification letter. 1999 OPS complaint PDF. 2002 traffic case 054566 PDF. CPC _2023 _01 PDF. Dorenza Johnson 227 audio file. Exhibits 19-141 PDF. Johnson call number 2 audio file. OPS _2019 _0141 Dorenza Johnson PDF. And all these other letters and numbers PDF. Number 4, the committee will then discuss the aforementioned records in a subsequent public meeting and vote on whether to recommend a full review of this petition. Concurrently, the Commission, via its Accountability Committee Chair, will send notices and updates throughout the process to Patrol Officer Luther Roddy, Mrs. Dorenza Johnson, Interim Safety Director Dormant Drummond, Chief of Police Dorothy Todd, and the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Black Shield Police Association, and the Hispanic Police Association. The letter will read generally as follows and may be adapted depending on the recipient. To whom it may concern, the Cleveland Community Police Commission, in accordance with its authority under Charter 115.5, is writing to inform you that we have received a request to review of OPS complaint 2019-0141 and the investigation of Patrol Officer Luther Roddy by the City of Cleveland. An assessment will first be made by the Commission's Police Investigations Discipline and Accountability Committee, about the deposition of OPS 2019-041. If the review moves forward beyond this stage, the full commission will vote at a later time on whether to open an evidentiary hearing on the matter. We will keep you updated on the progress of this review. Thank you for your service and cooperation in this matter. Sincerely, Terry Wang, Chair of Police. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for, I'm so glad I did not have to read that. Thank you so much. So, I found some minor kind of things when I was looking at it, but, are there any, now we're opening do we have a second for this motion? I can't second the motion, so it's up to you, Jim.
Why are we even looking at this?
Hmm?
Why are we looking at this one? We investigated by OPS, and then also the
Mhm.
Civilian Police Review Board looked at OPS investigation, and they found no fault with it either.
We're
Just-
just opening.
Why are we opening
Just
this
to
up?
clarify, if we're talking about the merits of the motion, it should be discussed after we second the motion. So
If we
just,
don't second it, it dies on the table.
it dies on the table.
Okay.
Can I explain why? Would I be able to explain, or? We have to it's not about, we have to go through a process, even if we can't determine right now if the case is viable. Because I know nothing about the case. If it was exonerated, that is, a fact in the case. And I saw that for this case, but we still have to take in the appeal and do the assessment of it. So, I don't think, because then otherwise we would establish a procedure that would say that anything that's been exonerated, we'd automatically reject as
I'm
an
not saying that, but I don't think in this case it's. I think that we're gonna be doing everything, right? I don't see it. I don't see looking at this case.
Well, so would that be, what is the charter, so we can't, our procedure says we have to go through Jason's analysis first. Procedure 2.44 says we have to vote on it and do an assessment. We should have done this probably without looking at all of the evidence. We can look at it just from his analysis. I think his analysis probably was on the border of just beyond, I don't know if Martin has a view on this, that sometimes it veered into the merits of the case a little bit, and sometimes it was about,
I never saw
So-
that.
yeah, we have it because it was in a folder that
So
was not shared.
Just to clarify, the CPC rules say that this case must be prepared for the accountability committee to discuss
Mhm.
and then vote and either recommend it for a full commission hearing or to not, at the very least, right? So that's in the rules, and we have to, because the complaint was made, get the case file, do an analysis, have it coming from the executive director's team, and then the accountability commission, our committee makes a decision whether to move it forward to full hearing or not. All this extra stuff that's also in this motion is beyond that, right? I mean, there's more things in this motion than just what the current rules prescribe, like the notice process, what it exactly says, what documents we're reviewing, what we're not reviewing. So,
Point of order, point of clarification, it does say that in the charter though. So we can't just look at our procedures, we have to look at the charter in addition. And the charter, our procedure, I want to say for the record, was written in May in a theoretical kind of vacuum. So I think what we're saying right now is, do we want to, and I think this is a case, just from my perspective, this is a case, no matter if it's viable or not, we should try to set our process through this case. Regardless, because I don't know anything about the case except for what was told to me secondhand by Jason. I would have to look at the evidence. Sorry to say.
Yes. Most of the things requested in this motion have already been done. And I just want to get clarity from our executive director, who I believe did compile an analysis for this case. Jason?
through the chair, we received this in December. We asked for the records 2 days after we received it. The records were delayed for a number of reasons. We received the records 2 weeks ago approximately, and per the rules,
I conducted the analysis and sent it to the accountability chair on last Wednesday, and provided access as an editor to all the information that she can see, all of those records that are there that we did receive. I think there's only possibly one thing that's different from this request related to asking for additional information from 1999. However, they said nothing exists other than what they provided. So I don't think this records request is going to get us any new information because they've already covered it. So this process we went through, I understand the formality part, so that's up for you all to debate whether you need to formally make this memorialized in this process. But you're much further ahead on this case than this motion would imply. We already have gone through our process per our rules. There is an analysis for this group to consider already pending. So that is where this particular case is at today.
I do realize that we have the records request, but as we look more into the process, I think we do have to memorialize the process. If it was just this case, I would argue that we would go through the process. It seems like we take a lot of shortcuts, and if we don't establish a process, and I would argue that 2.4 probably needs to be more formalized because we wrote that in May, and there, as I read it again, there were a lot of gaps in what the process should be. Let's remember that the power to deal with these things emanates from the commission, the power to receive the records, and also the power to decide whether we should be opening an evidentiary process. This doesn't mean, there was one concern that if we use this to establish a right, I'm not proposing this motion in order to establish a legal precedent for this records process. That cannot be established by motion because it's not in our bylaws. I'm trying to get us down into a formal process. As you'll see, in this motion for Mr. Tolbert's case, it is very similar, and we are not ahead on that process. One other issue that I realized while writing these motions and researching these motions and looking at 2.44 is that we're going to run into an issue here, is that we have records backlogs, right? We have, a lot of kind of problems with the city getting records. Mr. Goodrich is probably going to continue facing that. We will not be able to fulfill that 15-day window, probably.
Correct.
However, with the exception of this case that was, actually in 2019, I don't know if you would have those disposition letters. The initial analysis is only to be about the facts, the initial disposition of the case. We don't need the OPS investigatory report and other matters of evidence and fact to do that 15-day analysis. So we should not need those things. And if I would argue, if you're missing any information that you need to do the analysis, or Mr. Goodrich or staff, then just tell us within 15 days. It cannot be that the records and the delay in getting records in the city be used as a way to delay movement on these review requests, because it is in our bylaws. We are all right now in violation of 2.44 on Mr. Tolbert's case, which was received on February 1st. There's enough in the public domain and also in, I think, Mr. Goodrich's possession to have made an initial analysis of where we are in that case. And that is supposed to be the initial analysis, because otherwise, we're crossing a boundary here. It is the committee and the commission that is discretion to review the cases. It is not the executive directors. His job right now is to look at the actual positioning of the case. Has it gone through the right steps and processes?
Sorry, to the chair. What does it say in 2.44 exactly in terms of what the executive director's team is preparing for the initial analysis of the accountability? Sorry, I don't have my computer in front of me. If you could
So
refresh
it does. It gives things that I am actually not sure what it means
Well,
at
let's
this
read
point
it.
now.
You want me to read it for
Yeah.
clarification?
Yeah, if somebody doesn't mind
However,
reading
Yeah, let's.
However, but I do want us to say before it's read that it is clearly within, if we read the charter, it's clearly within the commission's discretion to review whether it will hold an evidentiary hearing or start an investigation. That power emanates from the commission. It is not, we have not delegated it right now to the executive director. If that was the case, then Mr. Goodrich can decide everything for
That is
this, right?
correct.
Technically. And I don't think that was his intent.
So that's not-
2.44 states after receipt of a petition, the executive director will have a legal analysis conducted of the feasibility of the request. This analysis shall be completed within 15 days of receiving a petition. That's what I have right here.
Is that the full thing or?
So there more?
There's components
There's
to
more.
it.
I think that 2.44 describes like components, sorry. You have it?
Is it in the OneDrive?
So it's on.
John has it.
Can I be recognized?
Oh, yes, sorry.
To the chair. So the other part is on page 35 of our manual, 2.4.4. After those bullet points, it says this analysis shall be completed within 15 days of receiving the petition. Once completed, the analysis shall be discussed and voted upon in a police investigation and discipline accountability committee meeting, which is what's happening right now. If no committee meeting is scheduled, one will be scheduled for the specific purpose of publicly discussing the petition and analysis without delay. Witnesses related to the discipline case shall not be called at this point. The committee will then vote to approve the petition and proceed with the evidentiary hearing before the entire commission or to deny the petition. A majority vote of the committee will carry a motion related to the petition. So I feel like you guys this committee is at the point where the interim executive director has written the analysis. And so I feel like this committee is that second part where you schedule this special meeting. And then you all have to discuss it, the analysis, and then you should figure out if you want to proceed forward.
Again, I think, if I may, I think 2.44 needs to be amended because here's the problem. The city is saying it takes 6 months right now, right, to even get an OPS case. So therefore, we will never be, if we need all the information that is contained in that OPS case file, we will never be able to fulfill that 15-day analysis. Right?
So to the chair, are you asking me a question? Yeah.
Well,
So
if
I
you need-
agree. So I will say we did, to your point, this was written without knowing what we know, right? So 15 days was ambitious. The reason 15 days was in there because during initial conversation with DOJ about how should we do things, it was brought to my attention before you even seated that time is already, for some of these complaints, if you're talking about an OPS complaint, you might be talking about years before it gets to you, before it went through its due process. So every day matters. So 15 days was an ambitious attempt, but I will say that 15 days probably isn't going to work. I do think that it would be a mistake to do analysis before you have the records. I think that you shouldn't do anything before you have records to look at the case. So I hope you asked me a question, if you would allow me to continue. I think to Co-Chair Adams' point, for this first case, the community has expressed an extreme interest in us moving forward and doing our petitions. The petition is on the desk of this committee. I think it's thorough. I don't think you're going to get any more information than what we've already asked for. And I get your point about revising the rule, but we are not the rules committee tonight. We're accountability. So I would suggest that, yes, you absolutely have a discussion about what should be changed and change it. But right now, under your rules, you do have a case pending that you can hear right now in this committee that has all the documents that we're aware of associated with it. And you can make a decision on the part of at least one record at this point. So I don't understand how this motion is moving that forward.
Martin.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for not having it up on my phone when I was speaking earlier, but I think I was specifically referring to the part in 2.44 that talks about what would be in that. Wait. It kind of breaks down a list of things that are going to be in, I can't tell if this is in the recommendation from the accountability committee or in the analysis from the executive director.
The analysis.
The brief summary of the incident and known facts supporting the discipline, the time and date of the administered discipline, and how the complaint's age may affect the ability of the case to be heard by the commission, an impact analysis on any pending criminal or civil cases related to discipline, general opinion on the feasibility of the case based on past and prior discipline and decisions utilizing the same disciplinary matrix, any special notations, novelties, or concerns about the case, recommendation for either pursuing or not pursuing the petition. So
It says it right. So I understand what it says, and this is, I'm not even proposing that we change 2.44, and I think it would probably be in the purview of accountability to provide a draft of this, just like budgets and grants. I'm not proposing to change the 15 days, but a recommendation for either pursuing, not pursuing supreme petition, that's a little bit ambiguous based on the merits of the case or based on whether it has gone through the steps of the disciplinary process. That is what's ambiguous right now in 2.44 to me is where, because I don't want to get into a situation that there's no movement on any case, that we cannot proceed with anything because we have no case file. And the reason I propose this motion is that the force of the records request comes from the commission. We've allowed, it doesn't mean that any commissioner cannot make a records request, as we've seen, in order to establish our statutory ability to get that records request. I believe it has to come through a majority motion of the commission. That is why I'm taking it through committee right now and taking it to the commission. Does it have the same weight? Right now, in practice, right, ad hoc, any commissioner, and we have this in our rules too, any commissioner can ask for a records request. And generally, sometimes it has been fulfilled, but we've never received a disciplinary request, to my knowledge. However, the charter says that it is the commission that bears that power, right? Of course, you can interpret to me that this power is delegated to every single commissioner, but on the issue of an individual officer, a case that is petitioned from the community, that has time, that people are waiting on many sides to get this adjudicated, I think that this should have the full weight of the entire commission. I don't see the reason for that, and I will call out the reason why these motions were stopped in the full commission. If you don't want, the charter is very clear. The first duty under Charter 115.5 is to consider and see these evidentiary hearings and investigations. If we're not doing this as a matter of fact for the commission, I understand Mr. Chura's point of view. Mr. Chura, what I intend to do, if it helps you, is that we put this motion through the full commission. It is kind of a redundant motion because a lot of the information has already been asked for, but it establishes a process. And then we can, because we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's, then we can go sit down. I'm happy to reschedule a meeting and we can look at the evidence and we can vote on it. I don't see any problem with that because I think we need to treat Ms. Johnson's case. I think it's very biased to treat her case in a different way than Mr. Tolbert's case, just because it came in maybe during December and our processes had not been worked out. This is our chance to redo that process and make sure that we are above board. Because I'm a little bit concerned. If we do what we did with Ms. Johnson's case, with Mr. Tolbert's case, I think we may run into trouble later on. Because the commission, it cannot be, in that case, Mr. Goodrick made a records request without even my instruction. So that is a problem. It has to emanate from a commissioner. So I apologize, Co-Chair, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I do. So through the Chair, so are you saying, to my understanding, someone clarify this if I'm wrong, this process seems unnecessary to me because we have a process for records requests.
That was not fulfilled in this case for Mr. Tolbert. It was fulfilled in this case, Ms. Johnson. He received a verbal,
No. To my understanding, it was fulfilled. It just wasn't exactly what you wanted. But this, when I reached out to other commissioners, they had no problem with the records request that was submitted, and they actually felt that it was the best type of request. I know that you wanted something specific.
For which one?
You
for
just
Ms. Johnson?
for Mr. Tolbert.
We're not talking about Mr. Tolbert's
But you
case right
mentioned
now.
his case just now.
You
said it was fulfilled for this, but it was not fulfilled for Mr. Tolbert.
Yes,
That's
it
what you
doesn't, and I think that Mr. Goodrick, you talked to, it's hearsay that you're giving. We can talk about
I
Mr.
have one of
Tolbert's
the
case.
commissioners here.
Right, and I've explained to Mr. Tur afterwards, your question to him, I wasn't there for the conversation, was probably not the precise issue.
No, it was precise.
But
It
my
was
point
precise.
is, the point is, we can talk about the Tolbert case later, but in the Tolbert case, what you're suggesting is that we will wait for the city under Mr. Goodrick's request, okay? Let me just talk theoretically about this. We would have to
Can I
wait.
have to finish talking because I'm not
Fine.
finished? So we already have a process for records with requests. You're mentioning a lot of rules, and I feel like if you have a problem with the rules, and that's something you need to address in rules committee to adjust those rules. This is not the place to change rules or change things based on whims of what you think needs
We
to
are
happen.
not,
Can I finish talking, please?
you are editorializing there.
Can I please finish talking?
If you may, please finish. Because you're
So,
not talking about relevant things.
no, I am. You
Oh,
are talking
yours.
about irrelevant things because you're
I-
trying to change the
Order,
processes that
please.
we already have
Order.
in place.
Order, no accusation.
Stop.
No,
Can you
that is- I'm the
please stop
chair.
interrupting me?
I am asking you to be in order. to
I
not
am
make
in
any-
order.
You are not in order because you're making accusations against members, specific members. Please speak.
What
More.
accusation did I make?
You just said you are doing this. Please
No,
don't
you
make
are
same
doing
I say
something
that.
to me right now. You're interrupting me.
You didn't say interrupting.
What did I say?
So please just be
You
in
can't even
order and
repeat
finish.
it. So I need to finish what I'm saying. We have processes in place already. You're trying to go around those processes. and-
Order, please. You're trying to impugn my motives.
No, I'm not
You
impugning
just
your
said
mo-
that.
you're
I'm not
doing
trying
this.
to go
This
around.
motion
Order, please.
Is not this
Order,
motion. This
co-chair
is order.
Zayed.
I'm pointing something out.
Co-chair
Can you
Zayed,
allow me
please
to
stand
point
in order.
something out?
Then I'm asking you to be in order and not
What's-
impugn the motives of people at
I'm
this
not
table.
impugning any
You
motives.
said I'm trying to go around the
You
rules
are.
and do
You
that.
are going around the rules.
That is
This
obviously
motion-
impugning my motives.
Here, Commissioner Wong.
Please stop.
We have a process
Please.
for requesting records.
If you do not
This is
respect
the
if
process.
you do not respect the
This is
order
not
of
the
this committee,
process we have in place for requesting
you don't know,
records.
we are already in violation of that process because we have two motions. Please, I mean, if you are not going to be in
Okay,
order,
did the motion die or not? 'Cause I don't see.
we are still discussing. Can I say,
I thought it has to, you have to discuss after a second.
Hold on, we need a point of clarification.
Is there,
Who has to second the motion?
is there a rule that says that the chair cannot second a
No.
motion?
Yeah.
There
Is
is a rule?
There isn't,
Is it in Robert's Rules of Order?
is it in Robert's Rules of Order? I don't know, we have a
I've never seen
three-person
the chair
committee.
second.
It's just, it's
Well,
just-
we have a problem now because we have three, so don't try to win by a technicality.
No chairs ever presented.
We have a
or
three-person
seconded a
committee,
motion.
so unless Mr. Chura seconds, then it dies. So everything dies based on the two members and not the chair. If that's what Ms. Garrett Ferguson.
I just had some questions from everything that I'm hearing about this particular motion, because I'm hearing what everyone is saying. I just want some clarity. So I guess the first thing is, we have a process for records requests.
Mhm.
Does the process for records requests include 4 disciplinary issues? Or is it just a broad, this is what the rule says and what we have decided as a commission we're gonna do in regards to records requests? So that's my first question.
This is, yes, so it's a broad, it's in 2.2. It is a
Okay.
broad records request that it just very basically says that it emanates from a commissioner.
Okay, so in particularly involved with Ms. Dorenza Johnson's
Mhm.
case, we have the files, or Executive Director Goodrich has the files.
We have the files, yes,
Okay, and it's my understanding he has shared those files with you.
yes,
Okay.
just, Friday.
Okay, and he requested those
Well,
files,
Wednesday.
and from what you stated previously, he requested those files without you asking him to do so.
I asked him I okayed him going forward with the files,
Okay,
right?
yes,
But we was just an inquiry to OPS. It was not, I did not give him a specific request to make the files. It was an inquiry he sent by himself to OPS.
so,
To the chair,
What-
point of clarification, you're on the email,
I
and
am,
this email is dated 12/28. You were in here, in my office, and you went through this with Shelley, you went through it with me, and your directive was to me to get these records. That's why I CC'd you on this. All of this time, it has been an accountability chair issue. In fact, you disputed the fact that the co-chairs were getting involved in this record request. That's also on there.
I understand that,
And,
but
and
let
so
me-
you did support this record
I did
request.
support this.
So
let
on the
me-
record, I would
Point
like
of
to
order,
clarify
Can he
that
finish
this did
talking?
come from you and the accountability committee.
Anyone
This
else on the
came-
point
I-
of order?
all right, so, okay, so
Let
from,
me clarify what happened in that
oh,
case.
I'm just saying, but we have the records, I'm just looking at that.
And the analysis.
We have the records and we have the analysis. So this weekend, myself,
Mhm.
Commissioner Truer was forwarded the
Mhm.
analysis. Exactly. Okay. So instead of us using this case to set a precedent of how all disciplinary cases move forward, can we instead make a recommendation to the Rules Committee to have them outline a process that makes sense? Because I think, unfortunately, I see what you're trying to do, and it is kind of like scary, the fact that like we're going to be out of the 15 days, but we didn't know we're going to be out of the 15 days. But that's regardless. We're kind of forcing the Rules Committee hand and making them do something that they might not all agree with in front of a process because we made a motion. that kind of oversteps their authority a little bit. And I say that because if there is nothing, we already have the records for this. So maybe we're not on Tolbert's case yet, but for right now, we have the records for this. So I think it makes more sense for this case in particular for us to schedule a time. You have a way of sharing those files, whether you download them and share them with Commissioner Schur and myself. We have maybe, you can even put a time limit on the chair. We get 2 or 3 days to review those files. You call a special meeting, we come back and we discuss whether or not we want to then move forward with a formal motion on whether or not we want to reopen the case to an evidentiary hearing or it should die, instead of us trying to use an individual case to set a precedent for the full commission on a process moving forward. Because there are different people on the rules committee. They might have ideas of what the process should look like when it comes to a records request. I think there's a lot of different things that have happened, right? We didn't know formally, even though it's been in the news for years, they're like OPS, they have a backlog of cases. We know that. So we have to look at, okay, on average, how long is it taking OPS, even with some of them catching up? I think we found a couple months ago they were catching up. But what is their actual rate of time? And then based on their rate of time of catching up on those cases, what makes sense for a rule for the full commission to be in agreement with and for the rules committee to come up with? So I just don't think we should use this case to set that precedent.
Okay, I understand. I want to comment on, I'll after. Mr. Goodrick, we were in the room. If you want it to be on the record, you said before even looking at the case that you did not think it was a viable case. I thought that was a very biased statement. That's why I asked you to go get the case
For the
files.
record, I did not
Please
say
don't
that.
interrupt me. You
I
did.
am not going to be
You did
told
say that.
what I
Then we
said.
can bring Shelley in,
So,
and it was
hold,
very.
hold on one second
Please,
here.
please.
No, you have a habit of doing this.
I
Other
do not have a
commissioners
habit
have
of
called
doing
you out
please
on
order.
hearsay.
You were interrupting me.
I am
You
not.
can
I am
correct me
defending
afterwards.
my character and your accusations against
You
me.
stated this. I don't want. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
It does,
right now.
because you're
It
more
doesn't
interested
matter.
in-
It doesn't. It doesn't matter to address Ms. Garrett
The
Ferguson's
case is on the
concern.
table for
The
the
case-
justice. If you wanted to do
If
the
you
citizen
please
justice,
do
why
not
aren't you having
interrupt
this meeting?
me, Mr. Goodrick. The reason why we have to establish a process, we can't just pick and choose between. I understand where you're coming from, Ms. Garrett Ferguson, but I'm trying to establish a symmetric process for Ms. Johnson as we can. What if there was records out there that we don't have, like for her 1999 OPS complaint? I'm just redoing the motion because the power for records request emanates from the commission. And especially in a case like this, we also are out of compliance with the charter in 115.4 because Mr. Goodrick, did anybody notify the unions or the officer or Ms. Johnson that we were opening this review? Yes or no?
So to the chair, no one, Ms. Johnson is aware that the case is open. But the question of when that notification goes out is still in discussion with the law department, Martin and I, in the hearing procedures of when exactly are you required to notify the officer of the review of the case. Is it during the petition receipt or not? So we don't have a rule on that yet. So recognizing that 115.4 does say that, we are working on drafting when exactly do those notifications go out.
So go ahead.
So because we have not at least had a chance to look at the files that interim executive director already currently has regarding this case, can we take that step back, schedule a time for us to get those cases, review that before we look into this? Because even in reviewing those documents, we might find that we need more information that's not even listed in here. We need to look at that actual file, read the assessment, schedule a time for us to have a conversation just about the case before we put in a formal motion. Also, in regards to like the discrepancies between yourself and interim executive director Goodrich, was there any documentation provided to the previous co-chairs or somewhere put in writing that, you know, emails were not getting sent out or things were going here or things were going there? Like, was that ever documented? Because I don't think without documentation we can like say that either. So I think like moving forward, is there a way for us to also keep a record of when we're asking any of our staff members to do something, how it came about, and CC other people on it for the sake of, we're not saying like there's not this public battle because we could just pull up the receipt of it
Right.
on the email. So I just think in the future, it would be more helpful if those types of things are documented. And I think for this particular thing, if we can just take that step back and allow the records that we have, do the review as a committee within the next week, we do it, we come back and we decide if we need to move forward with a motion like this or not.
Okay, I want to say one thing is that we don't, the records request that he had interactions with them that I wasn't present for. It's not just what was in the email. And
Was that documented anywhere?
We had, so what happened is that Shelley and I had it, Shelley called me first because Jason was on vacation and said a citizen had come in and has a petition.
Did you ask Shelley to send it to you in an email?
No, I was supposed to come in and talk to him. By the time we three of us came together and we discussed it, and I did say that he would go ahead and just make an inquiry to OPS because it was potentially a very old case, one part of our case.
But
so
I'm
it
saying,
was unclear.
I think we have to be very careful when we make characterizations about an employee doing or not doing
But
something.
he did say, I will, I'm sorry he not here to defend himself. He was very dismissive of the case. You can ask.
And I understand that, but I think that.
But that is not.
But I'm saying, I think that our responsibility,
But-
and when that happens, is to actually document it in writing and send it to the co-chairs that says, hey, I'm concerned because our employee says such and such about this particular case, and we know that this could, compromise the case, it could sway public opinion, whatever. I think those things should be documented before we bring it here, because now we're getting to the weeds of
Okay,
stuff, and we're still on this
understand.
motion. So
I
that's
do-
just a suggestion.
I do want to, and I will get to you, I do want to get us back to the actual issue that I'm mentioning. The contours of what we need to determine, the contours of what the initial analysis that staff and the lawyers are supposed to do. Because again, the discretion is given to the commission to decide whether to do a full evidentiary hearing. So what I envision happening is that Mr. Goodrich, with the Council of Martin's input and staff, puts together an initial analysis, and I'll give you the draft I've written of, but regardless, and then it comes to the accountability committee, and we decide there has to be I'm just asking for an additional filter. There has an additional filter, then the accountability committee decides, should we go ahead and ask for the records? Because the records request, again, has to emanate from some part of the commission, whether it's one commissioner or all of the commissioners. Then we decide that we can do the records request. And then we look at the records, and then we go to and then we provide a recommendation based on the initial analysis and the records to the whole commission, and then the commission decides whether we have an evidentiary hearing. Because otherwise, if we don't have that first filter, then Mr. Goodrich will have to wait for every single records request to be fulfilled before he can do his analysis. That could be 6 months, that could be 8 months, but there's some cases, quite frankly. Okay, so for example, I'll give an example. Say something was affirmed as a group 1, and the person is unhappy because they wanted it to be a group 2. Mr. Goodrich looks at the letters, and there is enough, and we don't have to take every case that is given to us, right? So if it's something like that it is just, the officer didn't get like a few more days or whatever, that is something that we should know and we should decide. We're not going to be able to take every case. Our job is to our job is to make sure the other parts of the system work well too. If we see a pattern of that, then we can go back and say, Carrie Howard, CPR, whatever, Mr. Richard Drummond, or CPRB, we've noticed a pattern. Here, the Tolbert case is different because
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet. But this is so what would we? I only made this motion such that Ms. Johnson will get the same process that Mr. Tolbert is, because I'm not trying to give her a different process based on the appearance of the case.
So I will say,
So
we can
legally-
say on the record
Yeah.
though, right? Unfortunately, however, there is going to be a little bit of differences in those cases. That doesn't mean it's not fair. It just might mean that there's some things that might be off timing wise. So I think to ensure moving forward that from this point they have a basis of the best possible outcome and they can have similarities moving forward, I don't think that we should vote on this motion or second it I think we need to look at the files that we currently have, schedule a meeting for Johnson. I think we can also decide right now if, while we're doing that, do we want to notify to those police officers? And I'm okay with that. We can send an email. We can use the letter that you wrote that said, hey, just so you know, the accountability committee we have started. We will take the next week or so. We can look it over. In this, what you put in the letter is fine. We can send it to all those previous agencies. After we have that meeting and look at the findings, then we can decide, which it says here, if we need to move forward with an evidentiary hearing, if we need a motion like this. I just don't think for this motion tonight at this point, that's what we should do. I think we should look at what we already have of hers, make a recommendation based on that, go back and then look at next week after we review that, if we need a motion like this, just not tonight. I agree with you, we need a process. And then see if the rules committee can perhaps even have a meeting soon where this can be brought up, where a similar rule can be made in their committee, because that's not our committee. But I think for right now, we don't need,
Please don't talk. No, please do not.
I think right now we
We've been
just,
waiting to talk for a long
so
So
I'm
that's,
so sorry.
please,
No, it's not
order,
true.
order, but please, someone is speaking, so please don't speak when someone's
So
speaking.
it would just be very helpful if we can table this and decide to look at the files and reschedule a meeting. Are you okay with meeting again in the next 3 to 5 days? Like, for us to look over the case?
For me, this case, I'm trusting the OPS investigators, I'm trusting the Community Police Review Board. They both came up with the same thing, exonerating this officer. I don't see any reason to go forward any further with this case. If we want to set a process, we do it on a different case. That's going to be my feeling at this point, no matter what. There's nothing new.
So you don't want to review the files we already have in regards to this
I don't
case?
know.
Okay.
really-
Well, I think at that point, we should move on from talking about this. Unfortunately, it is deaded, and maybe what we want,
So
we
what
can get
is-
to another case. But this is deaded, and then we have two other, our co-chairs need to talk.
Two co-chairs, if you need to speak, and then I'll.
Okay, I just want to say that I agree with Commissioner Garrett Ferguson that if there's an issue with the rules, that needs to be addressed in the Rules Committee, and those commissioners and the Rules Committee need to be a part of the process. I think that there was an analysis already given to you. I think that we should follow the process we already have in place. If someone is not happy with the process we currently have in place, they need to collaborate with other commissioners to change and improve that process. This is a body of 13 and not a commission of 1. Thank you very much. I agree with those comments.
In response to her statement, do you also agree that, so the Budget Grants Committee has not had in over a year a process, and it's keeping our rules from being completed, and they requested, you both are on that committee, and you requested that that committee handle that process. So you're not affording the accountability committee, which is the primary committee that deals with has to live this process. You want to move it to the rules committee, and we are happy to collaborate with rules, but you're allowing budget and grants to write its own process, but not accountability. I'm happy, since I'm on that committee, to move whatever process I'm suggesting. I don't know if Mr. Van Leer and Ms. Benito would even have any alternative process. But I'm just pointing out, and I'm gonna let Dr. Adams speak.
Can I just say real quick?
I'm letting Dr. Adams speak. You
Okay,
can
so
speak after.
to the chair, there was no budget and grants committee.
There was.
They didn't have grants.
No, the budget and grants,
So,
there is a
I-
rule for
okay,
budget and grants.
I don't want to be interrupted. I've waited a really long time. I watched your rules meetings, it was blank. The process is not even completed. What we decided as a budget and grants committee is that we should not write that process for budget and grants until we actually finish the process. The process is not done for our first round of grants. So you are correct that it's not there, but the process is not complete. So once we, I think, complete the process, and what we were thinking was once we finally get the grants out, once people finally get their money, then we can write a process. But the process is not complete. I don't want to be interrupted. The other thing that I wanted to clarify is we've looked at what our rules state, and you've mentioned what the charter stated. So the first thing I want to just remind everybody is this motion still needs a second. So this is actually kind of out of compliance because we never got a second and we're still having discussion. The second thing is what the rules allow is exactly what is happening right now. What the rules allow is that the analysis is done. Martin read out the bullet points of things that need to be included in that analysis. Our rules state that once that analysis is done, and with these 6 bullet points included in the analysis, that then the accountability committee then determines only off of the analysis if they will move forward with the case or not move forward with the case. So all of these other things are kind of getting ahead because he's done what he was supposed to do. And now you're doing what you're supposed to do. And the decision has to be made. And then the third thing I wanted to say is that you mentioned the charter. The charter does not contain in that first paragraph specific language as it pertains to investigations or process for it. All the charter states is the commission may at its discretion and upon notice hold evidentiary hearings to review individual officer discipline following any proceedings and decisions by the chief of police and the list other people. So what I think is that acknowledging that we have this power to hold an evidentiary hearing, but the in between about how we decide that is actually in our rules, which is what you have to decide now, which is either we are going to use the analysis to say yes, or use the analysis to say no. We're actually not out of compliance right now. He's done what he needs to do. You've done what you need to do by calling a special meeting to address it. So the next step is literally to decide, based on the analysis, if the case moves forward to the full commission or not. And if you decide to do that, then you use the other authorities. Then you use you contact people for interviews, subpoena people if you need to. So I don't think anything's out of compliance right now.
I think, as I repeat it again, if I can clarify, what is out of compliance potentially is that the power to do the evidentiary hearings in its discretion emanates from the commission and the commissioners. That means anything that is used to decide the merits of whether the case should be seen emanates from the commissioners. So that is my concern. Please let me finish. That is my concern that Mr. Goodrick, I think he probably just went through, I'm not accusing him of anything. There has to be a contour. He cannot decide whether he can have input, but he cannot decide whether the commission determines whether he cannot pre-package this analysis for us and lead us to an analysis whether we should take this case.
Okay, but I just wanted this point of clarification. What it states in our rules is the analysis is just a recommendation. It is not a final decision. So you're right. Ultimately,
I
that
wasn't
that
done.
authority
I
says-
wasn't
I just wanted to
finished.
say that you're correct, but it's just a recommendation.
I
You don't
wasn't
have to
finished
take it.
speaking, but now we have a practical problem that if Mr. Goodrick requires disciplinary records from OPS in order to do that analysis, when will we be able to see a case? When will we be able to instead of changing, I think the 15-day rule was not optimistic. I think that's what we should have. We should have open access to OPS. We're looking at OPS records. We're not even talking about IA things, right? It should be an open, and it's not happening. And to change that, to adapt to a situation that we're not getting records is really conceding their point. What I'm saying is that within 15 days, all I'm proposing is that within 15 days, you give us whatever you have so we can fulfill that. But I want to ask Martin before we proceed, who can second the motion? Do you know?
No, I have to,
Please don't.
if somebody's referring to some rule in the CPC manual that says something about
There's nothing.
a chair not being able to second something, I haven't seen it, but that may exist, so I don't want to speak too firmly on that. But I do want to say that so even though the motion was not seconded, a discussion about what would and what would not be considered to be a motion that would be seconded, like a new motion, is what I think is happening here, right? So if a motion was not seconded, a conversation naturally would be, well, what kind of motion would be seconded. You know what I mean? And it looks like that's what this group is. And so what I'm saying is this discussion is not
Why don't
100% out of order, but it seems like you're all discussing what motion would the committee
Okay,
put
why
forward.
don't I just do this? I will withdraw this motion. Or we can amend the motion if somebody wants to, that we will look at, because I don't want to,
It wouldn't be amending, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It wouldn't be amending, it would be making a new motion.
make a new motion. So I'll make a new motion, give it all the whereas clauses that we don't have to read again, but that we move forward with the files, that we'll figure out a way to transfer. And we will make a determination. Mr. Chair, I know that you feel strongly that this shouldn't move forward, but, you know, we don't know. All I know is the statements that it was exonerated. You know, I would have to look at the evidence. So that's how I feel about it. So we would notify, we would do so the amendment motion is to.
It's a new motion.
The new motion is to whereas clauses that we would open. Why don't you make the motion?
I would say I will make the motion, not tonight, because this is just dead. I will rewrite the motion that everybody can have a chance to see it. But what it will be is all of the same whereas clauses, and then the therefore would be that we are going to look at the records that we currently have, and we're going to have a special meeting, and we're going to decide at that special meeting whether or not we're going to move forward. I'll even put in there that we will notify the police, the unions, and everyone else, because I agree with you. We should not just go based on the assessment of the executive director, the interim executive director, without reviewing those files. So I think that is a good compromise for tonight, and we can move on.
Do you feel comfortable just making that motion so then we can schedule the meeting?
Yes, I'll make that motion so we can, but I'm also gonna type it up after.
We'll
Okay.
type it up and so that's basically the gist of the motion, taking out that first thing, I think. Just taking out item 1 is all we need.
Yeah, so you rescinded the motion?
I rescind the motion, we can make the. Is there a second for that motion, Mr. Churro?
I feel that due process has been given to the complainant and the officer, and that's it. It's done. For me, I don't see looking at this case any longer.
I
say we look at another case, where there's some other issues in that case that we could bring forward. But this case, to me, I don't see going forward with it.
quick point of clarification, and I apologize for cutting you off there, Commissioner. I want to talk about a difference between a case that comes to the CPC directly from a complaint versus a case that would come organically, i.e. through either the accountability committee going out and finding a case that would be good for us to review, for you all to review. This is a case that was submitted by an actual complainant directly to the CPC. So the current rule states that when that happens, that is what automatically triggers the file request and the accountability committee to review that case. And statements about the merits of that case should be made once we are reviewing the case as it has been complained. But that is a little different than say let's take it. I know we're not talking, but let's talk another hypothetical. The accountability committee saw a good case that's coming to a final decision soon at CPRB, and maybe they want to appeal. They want to take it on, because you all have the right to do that if you see a case that you think would be right. That's discussing the merits of that and whether it be good or not. You can do that without the case file for those situations. But doing something where you have an actual complaint in front of you that is submitted by someone directly to the CPC, you have to take the case file first.
And so that was why I made that. So that's another reason why I made that motion. What taking that out is that we will review the records we already have, and then we'll come back at a special meeting, and we would decide then after we have reviewed. But unfortunately, we have not reviewed that. We've only saw the assessment, and we can't go based on the word of an assessment when it's coming from a complainant, which probably more times than that would be a community member. So that was the reason for that motion.
I have no problem reviewing all the records and then coming back to the table and looking at it again.
Okay.
I have no problem with
So
it.
the second that motion.
That's what we're here for.
Yep. So that was the second of that motion.
Can I just clarify something before we move into this? There's a couple of things. you already made the rule as the full commission and adopted it, that will happen. So I'm not certain you need a motion. You just need to set a date and time to do it because it's in your rule that it will follow a process. Second, I want to be on the record again saying that you're not supposed to, you don't have to take my recommendation. So I think there's a lot of miscommunication here that implies that I'm trying to, steer this. That is incorrect. I did my job under the rules to provide you, to assess the information we have and give you an analysis with all of those bullet points per the rules. You are there. Chair Adams read what happens next. What happens next is, in fact, I would argue tonight's meeting should have been where we did this. That's why I sent that out on Wednesday. I was hoping that everything would be shared. Commissioner Wong, as the accountability chair, had access to share those records. She is an editor of all those files, can distribute them. So I was hoping that the next meeting of accountability would be that review so that we could stay on track with time. That's why I worked so hard to get it done before I went out of town on Thursday, so that you would be armed and ready with all the information. And it's just a recommendation. It's just an analysis. It's in line with our rules. It's in line with the charter. Yes, we can do notifications to officers and the complainant of when we're going to have that analysis, but I don't think you need a motion. You can just set a date and move forward. And Martin, you can confirm if that's true or not, that you don't have to motion another meeting. It's already in our rules. So
One thing that's not in the rule, however, is the notification. So I think that should be made. So we might as well make. And again, our rules are kind of sometimes, hard to interpret. Clearly, it's not. There are parts of this that have to be. We don't even have rules again for the process for other things that the commission is doing. But this is a more predictable process, right? Than maybe the budget and grants. So I am just putting this above board because I'm going on record warning everybody. If we don't have the force of the commission behind the things that we're doing, I don't know what the union will say at this point. Did we properly contact Mr. Roddy, things like that? So Mr. Chura, if you're willing to review the records and you're willing to notify the people, there's no harm in making this motion because we've taken out the first clause. So I don't know what the harm is, and we still don't know if it requires Mr. Chura to second or I for me.
It's unnecessary.
Will you
It
second?
doesn't
this
mean
one?
it's not unnecessary when it's about
Let's
transparency.
review it and come back.
Yes, but part of it is,
We
are you
already
also
notified.
okay?
Yeah.
We don't motion. Are you also okay with us notifying everyone that we are going to look at the case
I guess
and then
we have
review
no
it?
choice. I guess we-
All right.
Motion for that.
Thank you.
Yes, you do, because it's not in the rules.
We just said it right now. He said he's okay with it. We're gonna move on. He said he was okay with it. We're not gonna do the motion.
We're not going to do a motion.
We're not gonna do a motion. It's okay. It is on record. It is in public.
I would
That
be
is what was said.
Martin,
We don't have, but everything doesn't have to come through a motion.
Martin, if you're okay,
in our rules.
it's
I'm
not
so-
in our rules to notify.
Let's take a pause, guys. Let's take a pause. What are we saying is gonna happen? I need a.
So
quick
what are we
overview.
saying that is going to happen?
Yeah.
We're gonna look at the case files that our executive director has already looked at. We're gonna look at the assessment. We're gonna schedule another meeting. We're gonna come back and make a decision, move it forward. While we're doing that, we're gonna notify the complainant and the police unions and everyone else that, hey, we are just looking at this case and we'll let you know if we move forward with it or not.
Okay.
That last part about notification of the parties, that is not in our rules. So Commissioner Wayne wants us to make a motion because that part is not in the rules. And so she feels as if it's not in the rules, there's nothing holding us to it. So we can make a motion just for that part, or everyone else wants to know, is it okay if we just decide tonight we're gonna notify those people and not put it in a motion?
Okay, so I was with. Thank you so much for that summary. It was very succinct. You are paying attention way more than I am. I'm so sorry. You're on it. Okay, so yes, you do not need a motion for those first 4 things that you said. By the way, that I read the rules now. If you were going to make a motion tonight to do those things, I wasn't going to object because you can do whatever you want. But technically, as I read the rules, you do not need a motion for those first things because they're already in the rules. All right. The last thing about the notification, you're correct. The notification process, what it says, who it goes to, is not detailed in our current manual. If you believe as a committee that you want to send the notification out now, you'd have to make the motion. Or you could wait until you actually start reviewing the case at your committee meeting to make that notification.
So tonight, can we decide that since we've already discussed it in public anyway, and we are going to review those files in the assessment, that I move that we can notify all the parties that we are just doing an initial review. That's it.
We're doing a review of the evidence.
Well, a review of the evidence, but that we are notifying all parties that we are, that's it,
Yes,
just
you
a
second that?
I would second that.
Thank you.
Great.
Second, thank you.
I'm guessing it's unanimous.
Yes, Martin, I do want to,
We can move.
can you explain very briefly? Yes, nothing stops us from doing a motion, right? But what is the difference when you do a motion and put it on record that is different from just following the rules? Yeah, what does it do, like, in practice, that there's an action taken by the commission?
Well, I don't
It's
really,
clear, because it's also for this situation, right? It's not just a rule that can be applied to many situations.
I'm not really sure how to answer it because the rule itself was something that was spoken by the commission. So you're doing it twice essentially. So I don't really, but it sounds like you're going somewhere with that thought. So I would like to
Well, I
hear
would
what you're
just-
thinking if you're going
Well, I'm
somewhere.
saying the rules are being applied in this particular, right? So all motions are actually applications of rules in a particular situation. So for people to say that we're doing redundant motions is not true. It's for this particular situation. We've never had this happen with a petition case. This is for an officer that affects a particular person in the community and a particular officer. So that is why I'm making these motions, because I think that's a different scenario than the broader rule of the powers that we have and like the things from the charter. So regardless, so the motion, I want to clarify the motion. It is to notify the officers in the letter that's contained here. Is that the motion?
Yes, it's just
Okay.
the notification part. And
Okay,
we're gonna,
so-
at the end of this meeting, we'll schedule, because we don't have to do that part, we'll
Right. we are-
schedule the
so
next
we will-
meeting.
Is there any other discussion? Before we move to a
To
vote.
the chair, I just wanted to add, I think that 2.4.4, it states, I do think after this discussion that we probably need to add some things to that rule to clarify, but maybe this committee should make a recommendation for the rule change.
I've already done
We
it.
already said that.
We're
All
gonna
we
do that
need is,
later.
after it says,
We
that
can,
you
that's,
will-
that's later in the agenda, we're discussing that.
Yeah,
So if it's okay, if I can move for a vote, so we can move to the next motion.
yes,
Mr. Chura,
Yes, Chair.
yeah, vote.
you gotta vote.
are you voting for the motion? We're finally ready to vote. Mr. Chura,
Yeah,
Garrett Ferguson,
yeah,
and I vote yay, so motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now move to the next motion. Motion passes. The next motion is for OPS complaint, motion to open review records requests and notification process regarding OPS complaint 2022-0116. Mr. Chura, I hate to make you do this, if you can read that motion. But you're such a great speaking voice, and you've spoken so little so far in this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas the Commission's charter grants the Commission the power to, at its discretion and upon notice, hold evidentiary hearings to review individual officer discipline, following any proceedings and decisions by the Chief of Police, Executive Head of the Police Force, and as applicable, the Civilian Police Review Board. Any order by the Commission to increase or impose discipline will be final, and the Chief and Executive Head of the Police Force must follow it. Whereas an OPS complaint was filed against Sergeant Lance Henderson for improper stop, improper arrest, improper procedure, and improper tow related to the arrest of Mr. Antoine Tolbert on May 23rd, 2022. Whereas on February 14th, 2023, the Civilian Police Review Board recommended Group 3 discipline for Sergeant Lance Henderson, badge 9293, for improper stop and improper arrest of Mr. Anton Tolbert, as well as a recommended Group 1 discipline for improper procedure and improper tow. Whereas the Commission's procedure 2.4.4 states, per Charter 115-5, the Commission is authorized to conduct independent investigations and/or evidentiary hearings into any previously adjudicated discipline decision for the purposes of increasing discipline or initiating discipline where none was imposed. This is a discretionary power and can be initiated by the Commission or requested by a member of the public. The appeal process is not automatic and must be via petition. Petition shall be received in one of the following ways: by a member of the public at an open public meeting, by a member of the public via a written request, by a commissioner on behalf of a member of the public. Whereas on January 15th, 2024, Safety Director Kerry Howard departed from CPRB's decision by clearing Sergeant Lance Henderson, badge 9293, of the charges of improper stop and improper tow. Excuse me. Whereas on February 1st, 2024, Mr. Anton Tolbert made a request to the commission to review Lance Henderson's conduct related to OPS complaint 2022-0116. Whereas the commission's procedure 2.4.4 states, after receipt of a petition, the executive director will have a legal analysis conducted of the feasibility of the request. This analysis should be completed within 15 days of receiving a petition. Whereas more than a month has passed since Mr. Tolbert submitted his petition, yet this analysis has not yet been completed, and commission action is now needed to begin the review process. Whereas the commission's charter in section 115-5 provides it the authority to request and timely receive, without the need for making a formal public records request, from other city departments and offices, including the Division of Police and Director of Public Safety, information relevant to the commission's duties that must be disclosed if requested under the Ohio Public Record Act, and whereas the commission's charter in section 115-4 requires that the chief, the executive head of the police force, the board, and community police commission must timely and consistently notify complainants about and afford complainants the right to be heard in every step of the disciplinary process without limitation, from investigation and through hearings, reviews, and internal appeals, arbitrations, and court proceedings. Complainants cannot be excluded from being informed about or from being heard during these processes and have a right to intervene. Now, therefore, the Police Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee resolves as follows. 1, the committee will make a motion at the next full commission meeting to open OPS complaint 2022-0116, CPC Appeal 2024-1.
Yeah.
For review, request that OPS send the records listed in item number 2 and notify all parties according to the instructions listed in item number 3. The Police Accountability Committee will request the following records from OPS complaint 2022-0116 that are related to the arrest of Mr. Anton Tolbert on May 23rd, 2022. Notification of investigation. Full OPS investigative report related to the disciplinary recommendations for Sergeant Lance Henderson. All body cam footage involving Sergeant Lance Henderson, officers who responded to the scene, and officers who were involved in the arrest and transport of Mr. Anton Tolbert to Cuyahoga County Jail. Transcript of disciplinary hearing on OPS complaint 2022-0116 with Safety Director Kerry Howard held on November 3rd, 2023. All other divisional notices related to Sergeant Lance Henderson on OPS complaint 2022-0116. This motion will serve as the Commission's records request of this matter to the relevant parties. The Executive Director shall send this motion as the Commission's records request on this case and notify the entire Commission of any updates on this records request. 3, the Commission via its Police Accountability Committee Chair will send notices to Sergeant Lance Henderson, Antoine Tolbert, Interim Safety Director Dornette Drummond, Chief of Police Dorothy Todd, the Cleveland Police Patrol Association, Fraternal Order of Police, FOP, the Black Shield Police Association, and the Hispanic Police Officers Association. The letter will read generally as follows and may be adapted depending on the recipient. To whom it may concern, the Cleveland Community Police Commission, in accordance with its authority under Charter 115-5, is writing to inform you that we have received a request to review of OPS complaint 2022-0116 and a discipline issued to Sergeant Lance Henderson by the City of Cleveland. An assessment will be made by the Commission's Police Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee about the disposition of OPS complaint 2022-0116. If the review moves forward beyond this stage, the full Commission will vote at a later date on whether to open an evidentiary hearing on the matter. We will keep you updated on the progress of this review. Thank you for your service and cooperation in this matter. Sincerely yours, Kerry Wong, Chair of Police Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee, Cleveland Community Police Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chura. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you. We'll open the floor now to discussion. Co-Chair Zayed.
So I have a question. Out of the records request that was already submitted by the executive director, what out of this list, what wasn't included in that?
The question actually is better answered with what was.
No,
additionally,
I know what my question was.
But that's not the
No, I
same
can ask my question how I want to ask my question. Please do not correct me.
Well, then you're gonna
So,
delay this
co-chair,
process.
ED Goodrick, what out of this list haven't you requested yet?
So I'm gonna pull up the records request, but it's important to note that this process has already started under the rules, just like the last one did. So when the request came in, a records request was immediately made on behalf of the Accountability Committee per our rules for all OPS records associated with this case. Since that time, it has come to our understanding that we should also ask for the hearing transcripts. I agree with that, but it could have been an email to me at any point in time to add to that records request, which has not happened. It just keeps going through this motion process. So we can ask for anything we need, but no one has asked me directly to add or subtract from that records request formally through the accountability. So right now we will receive all records related to the OPS file, which goes beyond Lance Henderson. There are other officers involved in this case, and there may be evidence in those records that is pertinent to this case. So that's why I included the records request for all the files.
Okay, so right now, the only thing that wasn't requested was the transcript of disciplinary hearing on OPS complaint 2022-0116 with the safety director, Kerry Howard. So that was the only thing that wasn't included
It's
in that
my
initial
understanding
request.
that it would be the only thing that doesn't fit underneath the all records for OPS case.
Okay, so
So-
if we were to follow the rules that are already established, then all it would take is any commissioner to request this file for us to possibly receive it.
Sure, so
Okay.
if Commissioner Wong wanted to add to that request, we could have made that request already.
And I did recommend that she send you an email to request that, but she refused because she wanted to have this meeting today to do this, when all she had to do was send it.
We could already
Well,
be
that is
processing
again
that
disputing
request.
I would
No,
like to
it's what
address,
happened. It's what
you are
happened.
out of order.
I am
and
not
I'm-
out of
I
order.
am
I'm stating
your-
what happened.
You
I
threat,
documented
if you
what
want to
happened.
state what has happened, it will make you look very
No, it will
bad.
not make me look
But
bad. 'cause
let
I
me
know
finish,
exactly what I said.
let me, you don't know what you've said, so.
I
let
don't
me-
know what I said.
You
Commissioner
often,
Wong.
yes, please, you
No,
were out of,
I
no,
don't
you
know
were
what.
out of order because you're
I'm
done, are
not
you done
out of
speaking?
order. No,
Are you-
I'm not. And you're interrupting me.
Are
I
you
was
done
talking
speaking?
to
So I would like to have a point of,
I'm
I
not
would
done
like,
speaking.
but I'm
I'm not
making a
done
point of
speaking.
clarification.
I'm not done
You
speaking.
are out of order.
I am not done
You
speaking.
can
You are
hit
out
about-
of order
no,
because
you are
I am
out
not
of
done
order.
speaking.
Stop.
Ladies, can we, co-chair Diane, can you finish your
You are-
statement?
Yes, I will
And
finish
then-
my
and then
statement.
Please,
There's
chair
other points
of accountability, can you,
So-
that's fine, just speak after.
So during that conversation, it was brought, Commissioner Wong stated that she wanted to do this for the sake of the process. And I said, this is currently out of order and not aligned with our current process we have in place under the rules. And she said, well, it is under the process. I'm like, well, if it's, and I asked her a hypothetical question. I said, well, if it's merely for the sake of process, why don't we have another commissioner put forth these motions? How about Commissioner Early? He wasn't going to be at that meeting, so he couldn't have done it. But that's why I said it hypothetically. She didn't know that. So
Point of clarification.
No, I am talking and I am
But
not.
you're
finished.
lying right now.
I am not lying.
Yes, you are.
I am
That is not what
lying.
happened.
That is what happened.
That
That's
is what
you're
happened.
referring
We
to.
just wait till it's your
So-
turn. Just
so-
wait till it's your turn.
So then I said we can have Commissioner Early put it forward. We can have him put a motion for this if it's purely about the process. And then she said, no, it has to be me. Why does it have to be you, Commissioner Wong? I have to do this. I am the chair of accountability. I have to do it. Well, no, anyone could do it. You could have done it. You could have done it. Anyone could. So with that being said, it's not about the process because we have a process in place, which could have been someone just sending an email. Commissioner Gary Ferguson, you could send an email to request this document today, right now, and it will be
Are
submitted.
you finished?
No, I am
speaking?
not finished. I get
When will
10
you
minutes.
finish speaking?
Can you time me? I get 10 minutes.
Are you gonna keep you're gonna spend 10 minutes speaking lies? Because I will stop this.
You have an opportunity to say what you
Well,
want.
then we're
Just let
gonna
her
time,
finish.
how many more minutes, please? Because we have other
You're
motions.
you're being very.
I am not being rude.
You are being
I am
At
not
this
being
point, we
rude.
probably have 7 more minutes. Okay,
Okay,
I'm gonna
thank
stop the timer
Thank
at 7 minutes.
Thank
You feel free to respond any way you
But
want
I
after.
have to say, when something
No, you
is said
cannot
in
say,
error, no,
point
you're,
of order, I am
please stop
speaking.
shouting.
Point of order,
Please
I am
stop
speaking.
shouting,
Point of
Miss
order,
Syed.
I am speaking.
You are not allowed
You are
to do
speaking
a
out of
point.
turn.
No, it is a point of order. You cannot.
You guys.
Commissioner Wong, I'm gonna start the timer.
No,
Once
but
she's
Mark,
done, you
I
can
don't
say
want
whatever
to-
you want. Once she's done, I'm gonna start the timer.
I don't think it's reasonable to allow a commissioner to put on record things that did not happen.
Well, we can't
Because it's
control that.
Yes, we can,
Unfortunately-
because it's a point of
No, you
clarification
brought that
I
up,
made.
so I'm.
But
I
after,
didn't know you
once
didn't
she's
clear, that
done
was
with her,
not the conversation that happened.
you can do the point of clarification once she's done speaking. So we're gonna start the timer. We can see it right now. You have 7 minutes to finish, and then you can say whatever you want. You
Can
can
I
ask.
say one thing just before that
Okay,
starts?
I'll pause it.
One thing to clarify the rules, okay? Want to be very clear about our Robert's Rules of Orders that we all agreed to do, and we can put it into practice, all right? So, if somebody wants to call a point of order, anybody can at any time, right? So if somebody believes someone's in violation of it, call the point of order. That means if someone calls point of order, we have to stop talking, okay? And the person that called point of order is recognized by the chair of the meeting. And they have to state what the point of order is. Okay, how did you break the rules, right? The chair then decides whether that point of order is well taken. If it's once it's decided whether it's well taken or it's not, the person that made the point of order can appeal. They'll say, you know what, I want to appeal that decision, right? So let's keep our point of orders in order. We can keep them succinct. I think where we get a little lost is where we all just start talking over each other.
How
So
does the chair make a point of order when?
you can also make a point
Okay,
of order.
So I was making a point of order. So
Okay.
I will not say, I should not say you were out of order. I'm making a point of order.
Okay.
And my point of order is to clarify what was just said by Co-Chair Zayed. I have a point of order. It does have anything.
Hold on.
it has-
I'm so
no,
sorry.
you-
Let's
you
just-
cannot- There's a point of order. And my point of order is the inaccuracy of what Commissioner Zayed has stated. I would like to state for the record that I was it was at the day that, it was like last Monday, there was a meeting at 5 p.m. with CPRB. I
Commissioner.
met,
One second, I'm sorry. Someone saying somebody is lying or something is not against the rules or the Robert rules.
it is actually, it's in Robert's rules, I read it.
Which one?
It's not good to say, you can say you have a different memory of the event than me. It's not considered decorum to say that. So
Right,
I
so-
apologize for the way that I
So
said
that's
it,
what I'm
but
saying is
Yeah.
that saying someone is lying or you want to start.
I'm saying that as a point of order because that is not my memory of what happened.
But it's
in
my
that day.
memory.
That's fine. So I'm giving my memory before it's
But
called a
you
point.
can't point of order, you can't call a point of order to do that.
Yes, you can. It's a point of order. That's
But
literally a
me
point of order.
having a different memory than you is not a reason to call a point of order.
Yes,
you would
it
just, You would just clarify.
I would just point of clarification.
No. The point. There's no.
No.
I need to see the rule, or if somebody has a point to it about saying that someone is saying that they don't remember something as the same way as somebody else is against the rules. What I would say is, in that circumstance, the person should wait for the other person to stop talking, and then their response when they get acknowledged on the floor can say, hey,
Right, then
I
go
don't
back.
remember that exactly the same way, and this is what I thought.
Although it's in the rules that you can call it as it goes along.
Okay.
You want to stop the potential.
I agree with that if someone is impugning the character of somebody else. So if somebody is saying,
She is saying
that
that she's in.
if somebody is saying that I think that you are a liar, that is against the Robert rules. You can call a point of order on that.
She's claiming what she said just now was that in an intonation that was very clear that I had to do it. I never said those words at all, first of all. And what she said to me on the phone was she made the accusation against me that I'm doing this for my own.
If you want to, okay, so
Yeah, so
to
she
clarify,
Why don't we?
But I didn't mention that part.
Please, but also I think co-chair Adams has a good point. What is the saliency of this to the motion at hand? So if you want to finish.
I
you
was
can
trying to
finish,
get there, but you stopped me.
because you were saying things that I, did not.
But that is
Go
not
ahead.
against the rules.
Go ahead.
We
Thank
really
you.
have 21 minutes.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
we're gonna go over probably.
Yeah, so do we want to move to extend the motion, the meeting right now? to
30
20
minutes.
30 minutes?
Yes. We have to
I-
get.
Where's Jim?
He
Yes, Mr.
stepped out
Okay.
for a moment.
So two of us.
Okay, I'm
Give a
done,
second.
but that was a conversation and,
Okay.
and I did not say
I
anything
understand.
wrong. It was just a hypothetical. What if someone else were to put it? forward?
Okay.
Because we all know why I am here. We all know why I'm here. I am not sure why some of us are here.
Can I respond now with the point of clarification? Would that be in order?
Yeah, you can respond however you would like, as long as it's within because she's done talking, so now
Yeah,
it'd
thank
be
you so
your,
much.
to talk whatever you want to say.
So I just want to put on the record what I remember happening. It was the day that I believe was a Monday that the co-chairs met with CPRB. They were also meeting with Jason at that point, and I ran into Commissioner Zayed in the parking lot. And
No, we
she
were
saved-
No, Serena.
we were in the parking lot, and then eventually I went to eat, and she told me that there was a meeting, so I went to eat, and by 7:24 I received a call when I was eating. I took it from her because I thought it was an emergency, and then she started immediately criticizing the motion for Mr. Tolbert that I was trying to put up, and what she said to me was that she didn't say any of the things that she stated right now. What she said was that she would she would first call all of the commissioners and tell them not to vote for this motion, and two, that if that didn't work, she would have Kyle Early put up a competing motion, and then she started yelling at me that I'm doing this for my own glory, and I just kept saying this is not true, and I had to hang up on her because it was such a dramatic turn from what I saw at 5 p.m. And it seemed to have been instigated by the meeting with CPRB. So that's why I'm saying, for the record, that is not her recollection of events, is not what was said. I also told the people I was with right afterwards about what she said. So there are witnesses to the event. You know, it's unfortunate that I cannot counter. And then ever since then, Co-Chair Zayed has been trying to prevent me from putting these motions they're supposed to be on the agenda for Wednesday. These were motions that, as you see, were written. 17 pages were written. None of the motions, except for the one that Miss Garrett Ferguson read at the last meeting, were written at all. So I don't understand why motions that were perfected after many, many days of work, that were notified on the 16th and then sent before Mr. Van Leer's motions were even sent, did not make it onto the agenda in the proper manner. So I'm concerned that we are not willing to actually fully address this motion. So, but that is all I want to say on record, and I think that we should get back to the business at hand. I don't want to get into a tit for tat. You said what you said, and I said what I said. So I think it should be left at that, and we should be like arguing the merits and discussing the motion.
So do we have any?
So I'm moving on
Do we have any more discussion from
for
any
the actual motion.
for the actual motion that has been set forth? Do we have any more?
Well, I just want to say that a lot of what she said I don't find to be is not what I recollect, and I also say that we must be careful about making false accusations. Over the weekend, Commissioner Wong accused Commissioner Adams and I of stopping the staff from moving this meeting forward, when in all actuality, an email was sent out later after she accused us of working with the staff to stop this meeting from happening and not putting these motions forward. She accused us of doing that, and then like an hour or two later, a staff member said, "My apologies, things have been posted," and it was a power outage that delayed that from being posted. So that is what happened, and she never apologized or anything. And both of us were on the phone, and both of Co-Chair Adams and I we have record of that.
Do we have
Look,
any concerns
Continuing,
about the
I'm
actual?
not done talking. Continuing
My
to
God,
make false
sorry.
accusations will hinder the integrity of this committee.
So are you making an accusation against me?
Commissioners
Because that was
cannot
impugning-
continue to make false accusations against people.
Who are you
I'm
saying that's a general
saying
statement?
it's a
Point of
general
order,
statement.
please.
A general
Point of
statement.
order.
Commissioners cannot continue
Point of
to make false
order,
accusations.
co-chair Zayed, you will not impugn anybody's character. Are you done?
You're
Are
impugning
you
your own character.
So
Ladies,
that Commissioner Zayed, please. Thank you. Thank you. Now the meeting can continue. We will go back to the business at hand. Let's make a motion, Mr. Chura, can we extend for 20 minutes right now?
There's already
okay?
a motion on the floor to extend it back 30.
5:30, are you okay with that, Mr. Chura?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, we will move forward. All right, is there any more discussion on this motion for OPS complaint 2022-0116? I do want to get back to responding to the earlier comment that was made. The difference between the records request that is listed in this motion is that it is more specific. It does include the transcript for Carrie Howard. And my concern about the motion that Mr. Goodrick made is that, the records request that Mr. Goodrick made is that maybe not known to everybody, there was a secondary investigation related to OPS complaint 2022-00116 that was a secondary investigation not related to the events that day that happened to Mr. Tolbert. And 7 officers were investigating that. I don't know how many hours of body cam footage, evidence.com, IA Pro. This is why I narrowed it to this, because I want us to have the information, because Mr. Tolbert did not ask us to look into the 7 officers. He asked us to look into the conduct of Sergeant Lance Henderson. And if you see my request, it does include, it says all body cam footage involving Sergeant Lance Henderson, officers who responded to the scene, and officers who were involved in the arrest and transfer of Mr. Antoine Tolbert to Cuyahoga County Jail. That includes all of the officers who participated in any way, engaged in any way in the incident with Mr. Tolbert. The secondary investigation that's still attached to this complaint was through something else that was discovered, right? It was that for the NICE unit, it was multiple WCS violations. My concern is that if the city uses that request to forestall what we need, which is basically, I agree, it's a transcript of Carrie Howard, right?
Sure.
So we can, when we make the request, we can just make sure, I just think it's more specific. It is emanating from the commission. So do you have a question?
I do have a question to the chair. This is just from, just so we're always, we're just starting to get into this, investigations aspect, hearings aspect of the commission. So I know that we can choose to look at cases, but was the request that was made by Mr. Tolbert to look at all the officers,
No,
or was it just for Lansing? So my follow-up question then is, what are we supposed to be doing? Are we supposed to be honoring the request of the complainant, or do we even have should we be expanding this beyond just what he requested? Because that's what it sounds like to
He
me.
said the conduct of Mr. Lance Henderson. So that I take that to me on that he said on. Can we read that email, please?
This is appropriate in line with that.
Yeah, this is in line with that.
Yeah, it is
The
definitely
other-
in line with
Yeah,
that.
so
But we're not doing something that he didn't tell us to do.
But we can read that request from Mr. Tolbert, please. And there was a secondary kind of petitionary. It was not a direct petition from another.
You have the copy of the email. I
I
can't find it in there. I had to give you a printed copy because it went to
Right,
the
it said
website, so.
on this date, this,
Yes, but there was a second.
Well, I already know it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to answer.
There
the
was
question.
a
I don't have to read
second-
the email tonight.
There was a second request too from Chasing Justice for the same case. However, I will again state, just a point of fact, if you wanted to narrow the request, you don't have to have a long debate over the table for this. You could have just sent an email 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago saying, please narrow this request, and it would be done already. So I don't understand the rules. The rules say what I'm supposed to do. So I did what I'm supposed to do. But if you wanted, I'm not invalidating your points about maybe it is too broad, but it could have been a simple email say, hey, let's just narrow this and it would be done already. So I don't understand all of this controversy and the necessariness of this motion. We're already moving forward with the process under our rules. And so I'm not sure what the motion is
Jason,
doing in
Fine.
that regard.
If I may answer, it is again the same thing I said for the other one. This is our first case. Even though, again, the process, the powers already are guaranteed in the charter and our rules, it formalizes it, it puts it into a process. It also asks for the specific requests. It has the full force of the commission, where the request is supposed to go, who is supposed to be able to get access to records, and then also the notification. So I'm just memorializing all of this.
Okay.
I was happy, because
We could do both at the same time.
I figure we can do that both at the same time. But if we agree with this request, since it's already been, or this motion, since it's already been articulated, then we can vote on it. Are there any other questions on the motion?
I just have a comment. This is a lot for this meeting.
Welcome to, no.
Yeah, I see now. I guess I have a few thoughts, so I'm gonna start with those. The first is to you, Chair Wong. You're the chair of this committee, and there's 3 of us. So a lot of the back and forth is not necessary. I think just talk about this and let us call the vote because
Okay.
there's only 3 of us. So that is my first thing. I think outside of that, a lot of the other stuff that was said is just people's different opinions on a situation that happened that no one else besides you two knows the truth of. I don't even think that is as relevant
I was trying, yeah.
to this. I think that, and to even some of the comments by interim executive director Goodrick, I think that for this one, it actually makes sense, the motion, in my opinion, it does make sense. Because for this particular motion and for those things, it seems like that wasn't as public or everybody even knew. And so I do think we do have to start with moving forward, doing the request. This makes sense. We can still review everything. There's not really a difference, except this is just a motion that is going to be more specific and it's more transparent. Because now everybody knows it wasn't just done over via email where no one else knows. The public knows, everybody knows. We're reviewing the case. We have the motion. We can send a letter and email everyone and let them know like we're reviewing the case. I don't really see outside of that what all the other controversy
I
is.
understand. I apologize. I have to respond. So is there any more discussion or can we call for the vote? Martin.
Hi, back again. So just no comments from me on like the policy or the merits of the motion or anything like that. Just wanted to call out a couple of things that caught my eye when I was reviewing the motion. I know the last motion you all modified to remove specifically the first 3 things that were on that list, right? And just went with the notification. One of the things that is on this motion in particular is, I have like 3 things I want to highlight. Number 1, this first thing where it says that you're going to make a motion at the next full commission meeting to open OPS complaint, this one. I didn't know, is that still something that you all wanted to do and keep in this current motion? Because as was discussed at this table, that isn't something that is currently written in the rules as having to be done, i.e. opening the motion for just a couple of comments. So that's just my first thing I saw. So write that down as my first note. But if you guys want to do that, it is what it is. You know, I'm not going to, but next thing. Okay, I'm in number 2. This motion will serve as the commission's records request in this matter to the relevant parties. You guys see that I'm talking about that there. It's in the first sentence right after the block on what actual documents you're going to.
shouldn't say relevant party.
Where does it say it?
So the first sentence after the big block of things that you're requesting, it says this motion will serve as the commission's
to relevant.
records request.
To OPS then it should say.
Well, that, and I have a question on this motion will serve as the commission's records request in this matter to the relevant parties. But Executive Director Goodrick already made a request for records. So I'm just a little concerned that, you know, when you guys are clocking other city agency or city organizations on saying that they had this many days from when we initially submitted the request, if you're now starting to clock over again by saying this motion is going to serve as the actual request for the records, it might make the clock a little confusing versus amending a previously made request to make it more specific. It's just my thought. Next thing I wanted to say was, it also says in the next sentence, the executive director shall send this motion as the commission's records request on this case and notify the entire commission of any updates. Oh, wait. Never mind, I don't have a beef with that. I reread the sentence. And then the last thing I wanted to say, which I probably should have brought. Oh, I have 2 more things. The next list was this list of people that you are notifying with the letter. My question would be, where is that list being derived from on the parties that we're alerting? Specifically, you know, all all police unions, I just didn't understand the process of gathering that list. And then my last point was, I'm so sorry, I've been thinking a lot. In the letter, to whom it may concern, the second paragraph, an assessment will be first made by the Commission's Police Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee about the disposition of the OPS complaint 2022-10116. The review moves beyond the stage of full commission will vote on a later date on whether to open the evidentiary hearing on the matter. We will keep you updated on the progress. The assessment will be made by the commissions about the disposition of the OPS complaint. But we're not really there yet, right? Like the disposition analysis, I understand why we're doing this, why we're requesting the records now, because we have a complaint. And when the rules say when we get a complaint, that's when we start the records request. But the analysis and alerting people to the analysis of the disposition analysis occurring now might be a little early, since they have not, from my understanding of the CPRB in this case, they have not made a final determination on whether they're going to continue to appeal this case or what they're doing yet. There hasn't been a final decision yet. So saying that our next subsequent committee meeting is going to decide the disposition of the case, well, we probably want to hold off on deciding the disposition until it's actually ready for the commission to hear it. So those are just my couple of notes. You all don't have to agree. And I'm obviously not saying that they're right. Just want to hear your feedback on those.
From my standpoint, for the first one, and I know you're about to go, it makes sense. So what you said in the first one, about it going to the next full commission meeting, if when we get to that point, after everybody says their comments, I would actually probably do a friendly amendment to say just this commission and not the next full commission, also because the assessment hasn't been done. And I would want an assessment and for us to review everything before it would go to the full commission. So I would amend that. This part where it says the parties, I think we know that needs to be amended. And I would think that in this part where you put this motion will serve the commission's records request, in order to prevent this motion from overriding the request that interim executive director Goodrick put in, I would want this section to be friendly amendment to say that this motion will serve as the commission's as an amended commission's record request in this matter relevant to OPS, and that the executive director shall rescind an amended motion. So I would want that part to be put in there. So his point, and then to that last notion around the assessment and with the deposition, I actually wanted to expound a little bit on that, because I don't know if all of us know that CPR, like what's going on with CPRB. So I would like to take a step back and just have you explain what actually is happening right now with CPRB and OPS in regards to this case.
Could I make a point of clarification though? When, maybe I'm not using the word disposition correctly, disposition just means the posture of the case, the state where the case is. So it does not necessarily mean the final stage of the case necessarily, right? It is where the positioning of the case. And I want to get back to the fact that it says in the charter that the commission, we have the power at its discretion and upon notice, right, to hold evidentiary hearings to review individual officer discipline following any proceeding and decisions by the chief of police, executive head of the police, and as applicable, the civilian police report. So it's any proceeding or decision. My reason for opening, and I think that once we ask for the records, and Mr. Tura maybe can have input, I think it's probably reasonable to notify all parties that are involved, that we are opening the process because we're looking into this and we received the petition. We certainly have to tell Mr. Tolbert because within 15 days he has to know. We certainly, I think, should tell the officer. The reason, just to answer your question while I'm here, that I had all those unions is that I don't know if Mr. Henderson is a member of those unions, but they often are involved in the disciplinary hearings. Without having that roster, I thought that all the unions should know, and of course, the safety director and the police. If there's any concerns about this, I think that we can amend that. But my concern is when we open a process, even if it's automatic under our rules, I think we need to notify people. And I think we need to notify one other entity that we're not talking about, is the community and the public.
Mhm.
To do these things kind of behind the scenes is not going to be, and without presuming that there's any malice or ill will, but it could give the appearance of a lack of transparency. We should be above board with this, because at some point, we could be asked, why certain, I mean, right now, there's also, as you pointed out, since our coaches are meeting with CPRB, there is an imbalance of the information, the direct information that commissioners are getting. So this is a problem, is that my understanding of CPRB is through what I observed with CPRB. I'm going to just ignore all the things I heard through secondhand information. They are, right now, I made a public comment to help them affirm, according to the charter, their authority. And they were supposed to, in that last meeting in February, to rule on the departure for Mr. Tolbert's case. Mr. Tolbert was also present and made a comment that he wanted this officer disciplined. But then it became a little bit confused. The information that was given was simply that CPRB was not able to rule because they hadn't updated their manual. My comment was simply that a manual cannot supersede the charter. They've had 2.5 years because they were in place during the pandemic. And what I'm thinking is concerning to me right now is that we have the charter here, and we keep mentioning the rules. Let us not go down the road that we let our manual and our procedures supersede what we're supposed to do under the charter. We have to go back to the charter.
No, I understand.
So,
I agree
yeah,
with that.
so that is, and the records request, I'm fine with it being amended, but I want, even if it's an automatic process, this was not like discussed with me and Mr. Goodrich extensively, so I wish that in the future that we have a discussion about this, and then we also tell that maybe Mr. Chura obviously has like some other thoughts about how the records request to be made. We face historically a lot of nitpicking about our records requests. So I think specificity is good here. If we get these information, most of it for this case, my understanding is in the public domain except for the transcript. So had I had that conversation with him, I would have pointed that out. So that, I don't know, Martin, does that answer your questions? Do you have any more concerns about or changes that you want to suggest for the motion?
I want to hear more commentary before I continue to respond, so if
All right.
you don't mind.
To the chair, so this will probably be, I kind of gotta go, but there's a few things I wanted to say. One, again, I would be careful. You don't need to bring this to the full commission.
But why don't we want
because
to?
Because this
Why don't we want
committee,
to?
I did not say I didn't want to.
But what would be the
You're
harm?
Okay, but can I please
Yeah.
make my comment? I'm just saying that you don't need, okay, eventually, of course, it has to come to the full commission. But you're running a risky game with that. You're assuming that you're going to have the support of the full commission. So what do you do in a scenario where you want to move something ahead as a committee chair? And out of just wanting to be transparent and inclusive, what if you bring that motion to the commission and it gets voted down? I just want you to consider that. That would be a conundrum that would have been self-created.
Mm-hmm.
So this committee has that authority. So I think that it should stay where it should stay until it needs to go where it needs to go. That's going to be my suggestion, because you don't want a situation where your committee moves something forward. You don't need to bring it to the full commission. The full commission votes against you. Now what do? I just want to put that out there. The next thing is, I think that my suggestion is going to be, just make the request for what you don't have. If you try to couch this in I want all of this and all of that, I think they're going to do what Martin said. I think they're going to be new records request. I think we just should ask for what we don't have. We should not overlap the request, because I think that we already, better than anybody else on this commission how resistant the city is to disciplinary records in particular. So that would be my second thing. And I think that my other point would be, in terms of the discretion part in the charter, all the charter says is that we have to hold the hearings. But how we do that is actually in our rules, the process, and it's not completely laid out. There's things that need to be added, but the charter says we have the discretion to do it. Our rules start a process of how we actually do it. So I just want to, the charter mentions the hearings and investigations, but it's very general. It just specifies that we have the authority. And the last thing I wanted to say is that in terms of transparency and wanting to inform the public, this motion could have been an open, informative discussion to inform the public. And in terms of the meeting that we had with the CPRB, we did talk about it in the last meeting. It came up in the last meeting. So the public is already aware that we had a meeting with CPRB and that while maybe the specifics of it are not out, but what we did state in the meeting was that there are items that they need to work on. And as Sharina said, they actually agree and want to work together, and out of trying to give them the space that they need, because they're not having an easy time right now either. So I just want to dispel this notion that there's anything secretive going on, but we also have to realize that like the police reform is being politicized in a lot of ways. And if we don't try to at least work with these other police entities, we're going to be stronger together than stuff. So I just want to say those things that I would really want this committee to use its authority and then move this work to the full commission when it's seen.
Okay, I would like to address this hot spot. I'm sorry, I should have written these down. Can you go through your points quickly again? And then
So
I'll answer them first one by
to the
one.
chair, my first point was that I don't think it needs to go to the full commission.
So let me answer that. And I do understand the danger, but we are not understanding. If the full commission stops it for an evidentiary hearing, it stops, right? The full commission is the authority for that. And I'm not asking even for that in this motion. What we're asking is that we open the process. And it is a way to alert. If any commissioner has a problem with something, it's, as you said, it's reduplicating our rules. So where would anybody, so what is the danger of asking for something that is already in our rules?
I'd like to just make a point of clarification. I made that comment because in the letter that's in the motion, it states the full commission will vote at a later date on whether to open an evidentiary hearing on the matter. That does not need to happen. That authority is under the accountability committee.
And that is one of the things.
So you determine that it needs to.
No.
And then
It's
it
number
comes-
one, you guys. Y'all are, it's
Yeah.
that the committee, it's the same thing that I
I'm
said.
here.
The admission. Where? You saw it right here?
I'm in the letter.
The letter.
So what I'm saying is, but the process is like,
So
it would be here where we would
I
decide to
think-
bring it to
I
the
don't,
full
no,
commission.
I don't, we make a recommendation for the evidentiary hearing. It will still have to be the commission,
Yeah.
because the commission under the charter has, and that's one of the things that needs to be made super clear with 2.44. We can't decide as the accountability committee to do the evidentiary hearing, can we? We can't drag the rest of them.
No, we have to,
Yeah.
that's the full commission. It has to
Yeah.
come to a vote. That's the way it's
So
written.
that's written, so that's the kind of the process. Okay, so second point, could you go through, please?
To the chair, only request what we haven't already requested. Do not have any overlap over what has already been requested and what we don't have and we still need.
Okay, and what was the third and fourth?
Um,
So we can amend that?
I'm just saying that my other point was that I just want to clarify that the charter gives us the authority to have evidentiary hearings, but the process for how we do that is in our rules.
Right, so again, the process, it's in our discretion, so it has to be the commission that makes the discretion. The reason why we are doing this is to actually probably test out which process if this becomes too cumbersome, what I'm proposing, then we can change it. But right now, we have kind of a little bit of misunderstanding as to who's supposed to do what. I do think also it's also clear that it is the commission's authority to ask for records requests, that we delegate it to Mr. Goodrick, right? So, and that is the commission's authority to vote on the evidentiary hearing, and that's delegated to the accountability committee to start.
So can we make an amendment and vote? Because
So what are we amending here?
so can we amend the part, the first one where it says the committee will make a motion at the next full commission meeting?
Mhm.
Amend that to that is not we will do that or take that out. Like we're doing that. We're deciding that. I don't want
So you don't want to open the OPS complaint and alert the commission that we're doing that? No, because we have to do that because request it and then notify all parties. There's nothing, number 3, again, we're pruning it. Like, why not, if it's,
No, that's not what I'm saying. This just says for a vote. It doesn't say just notify them. It's
Right.
saying that we're gonna make a motion
Mhm.
at the next full commission meeting to open the case.
Mhm.
I think for essentially opening the case, just like we are doing with Johnson,
Mhm.
we can open the case, do the records request, get the files, look at his assessment, and then decide after that
yeah.
if we want to, and we can put it in the committee report that, hey, just so you all know, we have made these different we have looked 2 cases. This is our decision on one, this is our decision on another. That can be an emotion in and of itself. I think right now, we need to just look at the cases. We need to get all the files that we need to get, and we need to look at the assessment from the executive director. We need to meet like we're going to do with Johnson, and then decide what we want to do before we take it to the full commission. I don't think it is smart to take this where we don't have anything.
But again, it's
To
the
the
same-
chair, I just kind of point of clarification. The case is open. I think there's
Yeah.
confusion in the language of this motion. As soon as I receive a complaint, it's assigned a number, and that case is open at the CPC per our rules. If we want to change the rule and take staff out of it and wait for a motion to open cases, I'm open to. I live in your world, but right
Excuse
now,
me, that's not what I was
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
For just
no, not
clarity.
you
Okay.
personally, but I think we're on the same page here.
Okay.
You are correct. I don't want the community to be confused that we have delayed opening this motion. This request, it is an open case for us.
Yes, but we
Yeah.
don't have all the information and
don't
stuff that we
have-
need. So
But, okay, there's another issue. We are still 15 days overdue with that assessment, so the reason why this motion is here is that we are establishing the process through the motion, saying this is actually our process. I don't understand what Dr. Adams' point is. If we're just opening the complaint, we've already opened it, you're saying it's already
It's an
open.
open case.
We have a records request that we may need to amend, and then the only thing we have to do is notify all third parties. If we've already done all these things, what is the controversy?
We have
of
it.
this motion putting it?
it's no controversy.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wayne, that's not what we're talking about. One, Co-Chair Adams and I were talking about 2 different things.
Mhm.
What Co-Chair Adams was saying was when we get to the point of the evidentiary hearing, that is the point that he said it should not go to the full commission. It stays with us. That's not what I was saying. I'm saying what he was saying, the way you have it in that last paragraph is correct. When we decide we want to do an evidentiary hearing, we absolutely need to take it to the full commission. I'm saying that in this first part of just us reviewing, we need to do that internally first. So if, like you said, if everything is open, well, I'm asking for the amendment for it to say, amend the records request into OPS, notify all parties, because I don't think that all parties have been formally notified, and say, like we are doing, what we already decided with Johnson, hey, when we get these records back and we get all of them that we need, and Executive Director Goodrich does his assessment, we will then meet to look at all of those files. So I'm saying amend it to include that same process that we're going to do with Johnson, because all of those things have not taken place. We need to do this work first, and then once we decide, take it to. So that's why I'm saying at this point, keep it with us. We look at the files, we read Executive Goodrich, Interim Executive Director Goodrich's assessment, and then we meet, we look at the files, and we vote, and then we take it to the full commission.
Okay, so the problem right now is that we don't have an assessment for Mr. Tolbert.
So put that in there. That's what I said. Add these components.
But again, I'm asking, what is the controversy? The reason I'm doing this is not for redundancy. It is to make it an open process, because the one entity that we have not notified is the community. It's probably not legally required, but we are a community facing.
So can we put that in there instead of
Chamber is the
notifying?
community.
I know, so I mean, but what?
But can we just put it in there? No, so what I'm saying is, Commissioner Wade, I'm with you on notifying the public. I would even add, we can add it to this motion that even says that this also serves as a formal notice to the community and the citizens of the city of Cleveland that we are going to review this case. Taking it to the full commission for a vote when everybody at the full commission is not even on the accountability committee does not make sense. We're all here tonight. We can pass the motion.
However, again, yes.
And we can put in that there has to be public notification.
I
That's not a problem.
I understand that, but again, no one's answering my question.
Yes.
If it is already a process that has been opened, I don't know if.
Because with Johnson's case, to your point, I get what you're saying. Why can't we just take it to the full commission? I'm pushing back on that because to your point about establishing a process, when we are reviewing Johnson's case, we're not taking that to the commission first. We're getting all of our stuff. We're going to review it. We're going to meet. So for your point of establishing a process, I want to keep with that same pattern. If we're going to look at Johnson's case and then take it,
Johnson's pattern.
and that's fine. And yes, but I think with anything we have to give and take. And so what I'm saying is there are always going to be compromises that anyone makes. For most of this, I'm with you. I said put in that it's public, but taking it to the full commission before we have done the analysis doesn't even make sense.
It's just opening it. It's not asking the full commission for an evidentiary hearing.
I know,
It
it's
is
asking
putting
them to
everybody-
vote. It's not on
everybody
notice.
Putting open for a notification, so we
But
have.
that's not what that says. It
Fine,
says
we don't
vote.
Make it clear. Where does it say vote?
You put where because you said the committee will make a motion at the next, so that signifies a
To
vote.
open, yes. So
But
what
it's
is the
already open. We have it here.
So we need the notifications and we need everybody above boards for.
And that's what I'm saying.
transparency.
We're gonna list that in there, but we don't need.
So what is the
them to
alternative
vote.
language that you would like to put?
So I'm saying that the committee, the accountability
Mhm,
committee will make a motion
mhm,
tonight or whatever
mhm.
to open this. So when we do this motion and we vote on it tonight, it's open. And I said you can add a sentence in there. This also serves as an official notice, or we will also, or the executive board will put an official notice out that we are working on this case or we're reviewing this case. Put that language in there.
But again, so if the, I guess I'm still.
Because what I'm saying is you're taking it to the full commission,
So
right?
what is
That's
the
delaying.
It's
First
not
off,
delayed. We have a special meeting on Wednesday.
We do have a special meeting on
Yeah.
Wednesday,
It's not
absolutely.
necessary, and going in, and thankfully we have a special meeting, but it doesn't mean that in the future we have to do it, but this is our first case. I think we should be above board and everything.
And I said, let's be above board by putting it in there. I said, do not take away the power of this committee to open the case.
That doesn't take it away.
It does take it away because we are opening it up instead of us as the accountability, as the people who say we are experts in this and we are interested in this and we're going to do the nitty gritty work and read all the rules. We are stripping ourselves of our power by saying, hey, we want you all, but motions do set precedent. That doesn't mean precedent can't be changed. They do set a precedent. So we're not going to say that.
Mark,
But what I'm saying is that is not necessary. Where's the experts? We're the ones who are spending the extra time reading, having the extra meetings. We vote. If we want to open it, we then notify. We can put in the motion that in conjunction with re-amending the records request, that the interim executive director and the staff will notify the public on such and such a date that we are taking this case. I am not arguing against public scrutiny. I would never do that. That's not what I'm saying. This has nothing to do with that. I'm saying do not eliminate the power of this committee.
I get it, I hear
And
you.
that the fact that
It's
we
not-
already know that the case is already open.
Here is
We don't need to do that.
here is the problem that I foresee. Is that if the commission, we don't get buy-in from the full commission, what is going to happen? Because I fear this from other.
We cross that road when we get there.
No, we don't have to cross that road because I think we've crossed it a few times. Is that the people, Commissioner Zayed is just talking.
Well, okay, but that is we're gonna act with decorum and appropriateness. So
let me just finish. So then we've already basically seen what I observe to be rubber stamping of policies. It is the core responsibility of this committee. I would love for us to do their work, but what I would actually like is to see diversity of thought from the full commission as to whether we take a case or not. We are the kind of the worker bees on this, right? But if it becomes a rubber stamping, it's going to be because I don't want the three of us and Mr. Goodrick to be like controlling all this. We have to actually empower the voices of all 13 commissioners
I
on
think
this.
there's a difference between empowering and force, and we can establish that with the rules committee. But for the sake of tonight, and for the sake of all of the parties involved in this case receiving justice and receiving, there's already been over a month's delay. At this point, it was 29 days, and we're on 4th. It's 33 days.
This is
that-
this is to refine it because the
And
delay-
so what I'm saying is, let's come to a compromise. Let's come to a compromise.
Jim, how do you feel about this? I'm fine with the motion as is. I mean, this is again, we're saying that we're compromising on Johnson, we're compromising on Tolbert. This is a case that is probably has, shall we say, more things to entertain on it, if I can say.
I think we take a look, we're like the screen, we take a look at it, and if we agree that the commission should look at it, if there's any question between us, then we have them look at it. And if we think they don't should look at it, then they don't.
Let's make the
I mean,
amendment.
that's what I see it, I don't see it going to the whole commission each time.
Yeah, so let's,
It's not establishing for each time, but if it's already open, what is the problem of a
Commissioner Wayne,
process?
we are offering,
So why even have this committee?
that's what, so we are offering right now, make some of these amendments, and we
All right,
can
if you
vote
want
this.
to
So make the amendment.
So what are you going to make the amendment? If you
So,
suggest the amendment.
Okay, so the committee will make a motion at the next school, so we need to just strike that.
I do fear that we are taking this out of the public.
Okay.
Well, can I
All right,
ask
and
on
then we're
the,
gonna add, a
want-
sentence about notifying the public. We're gonna add that to
and
this.
how, fine, notify the public
And we're gonna
by
add that.
discussion at a public meeting. How about that?
I'm fine with that. I'm not saying that. I'm
No,
just,
at the next full commission.
no, I do not want this brought to the next full commission meeting.
Why?
Because we haven't
We haven't
reviewed
looked at
anything,
it.
or anything
But
yet.
we need to, we
We need to notify them that we're doing it, correct? Is that what you
That's
want? So I said, let's put a
I'm
sentence.
just very concerned that
I
that's to
understand that
allow
you're
the
concerned.
transparency of
I
this.
understand,
What is
but
the
we are
problem with?
We're telling you the
taking
language to
this-
put it there.
Just 1 second. I want to make sure that the record's clear for the minutes. If you don't mind, if it would be okay for the commission, if you could state your amendment that you're proposing
Okay.
before we debate it,
Okay.
that'd be really helpful for the minutes.
Okay, so, sorry, okay. So first, and this is gonna be choppy, because I'm saying it as I say, okay, so I'll clarify. But basically, so, as a result, for lack of a better word, the accountability committee will open, so I'm gonna strike, not make a motion, will open OPS, that's already been done, whatever, so we put that. The next part, the police accountability will request the following records from OPS. I would say the police accountability committee will ask, or will require interim executive director, Jason Goodrich, to amend the previous records request to include, to show,
How about
and-
this?
or to include all of the following.
How about with this? We just leave it as is. We'll press the following records, okay? And then we say the motion was.
Well, no, we need it, we don't want this to supersede, so that's how we're
We're
amending.
ending, if we can amend the bottom, then we can do that.
Okay,
The executive shall send this motion as an amended, right?
yes,
As an amendment to the commission's records request on this case, and will notify the entire commission of any updates on this records request.
yes. And that we, and wherever else you want to put that, we will notify the full public about this case via this, this motion will serve as public notification, and including, if we decide to move forward, we will have a public hearing or a public meeting notifying.
Okay, so this motion will serve as an amendment to the commission's records request in this matter to the relevant parties. The executive director shall send this motion as an amendment to the commission's records request on this case.
To the previous
Amendment to the.
previous records request. to the
Well,
commission's
that's, I don't know if any commissioner made that first, so that is.
Or to the previous,
To the
records
previous records request on this case. And will notify, the entire commission of its updates. And the executive director will notify the entire commission of any updates on this record request.
yes, and that this will also serve as a public notice to the citizens of the city of Cleveland.
That this motion,
This motion, or the staff will send out an official notice to the citizens of the city of Cleveland, notifying them that we are starting to review, that this committee is starting to review this case.
Like
Is that goes into,
press
that,
release.
I'm sorry, that goes into the first box, right? Or does that go into
No,
a
I'm
I'm gonna
separate
have to
box?
extend by another, I think,
5 minutes, no,
10 minutes. How about that?
10 is fine.
Unanimous.
So,
okay.
okay, so
Sorry, Jim.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So, okay, we're under the second bulletin, right? And so where it says notify the entire commission of any updates on this records request, I said add a sentence that this, whether it's the staff or the executive director, whoever, is going to send a notice that the accountability committee is in its first step of reviewing this case and will, notify or let people know via a public, of updates via public meeting, however I don't know what the
Okay.
public meeting would be for, but that we would notify that they will send out a notice, that they'll send out a press release. Yes,
You want that?
yes, it can just notice, it's anything.
The only thing I might have to say about that is the rule on notifying the public and speaking on behalf of the commission.
Yeah.
So
Requires the commission.
it requires a full vote of the commission. So to notify the public via other means, like if you're posting on the website or you're sending out a press release, that would have to be voted by a majority of the commission or come through the co-chairs. So what I would say is that if you're notifying the public and you want to do it here, you should do it through the means that the committee controls, right? So like either in your meetings you're talking about it, or what you suggested originally, which was report on it in the
Yes,
committee report for accountability.
yes, so the next.
That's within your control.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, and we'll put that it is, that, and we'll have frequent updates of
Well,
it.
I mean, sure, but so,
These are the amendments, and we
I
can get this
understand.
out of, we can vote on it tonight.
but we don't, but according to you, we don't even need any of these things.
I know you know.
Aisha, we don't even need this.
I didn't say
motion
that.
Because we're starting, because
No,
we already
that's-
started the process. So, I mean, why are we even doing it unless we're taking it to the commission at this
Well,
point?
no, because we're
And we
already
need the commission's-
re-amending.
And I think Martin, I forgot about that. We need the commission's authority to make a public notification of this. So
But that's
Why
a
don't we
public,
do the commission?
no, that's posting it. So what we're doing is formalizing the process like we did with
So am I
Johnson.
going to be again censored in my report at the?
No one is
That I was not allowed to make my
But
full
But
report.
we don't know if that's gonna happen at the next
All
one.
right,
We
we'll
can't see the
have a promise
future.
to the co-chairs that they
We
will
can't do that. That
bring
is
it
not, that is
by-
inappropriate. We will not do that. But we can say is we are willing to put these
It just
amendments
seems like we're going
in.
to a lot of effort not to not to let
Commissioner
this.
Ray, we only have at this point 8 more minutes left.
So.
We are
what,
discussing the amendments. We are willing to get
so
this
you are,
out.
okay, so the accountability committee will open OPS complaint,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. Request that OPS send it. I have a question, Mr. Gooder. What is the status of that records request right now, so in case we need any make amendments to this?
That records request, I believe, is part of the motion, where they're saying some records might be restricted for us right now. So
So are they
that's
gonna?
a separate issue. I don't want to get,
Well,
I don't
when
want to
did
go
you
down
make
a
the
rabbit
request?
hole, but we will, when did we make it?
The 19th or something.
The February 19th.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. But
But Mr. Godek, I just want to know that will you be able to do your initial analysis? What is missing for you?
I don't believe, and I stand by this, we should ever do anything without having all the evidence possible to move forward. I think it would be a grave mistake to move something to a hearing without having all
No,
the
to do your
records.
analysis, I'm asking.
Yes,
not
the
to
record,
your-
the analysis is based on the assumption that we have all the records to look at.
So
I
you
can
haven't
give
done the
you a
analysis.
I don't,
full-
again,
No.
okay.
So you haven't done it. That's
No,
okay.
no,
So-
no, no, no,
so-
no.
No. When do we expect to have, let me just ask, when do you expect, first of all, I challenge the notion that you need to have all the records to do the initial analysis. What I'm asking for as the accountability chair and the whole committee can ask, if you don't have it, in 15 days, you have to give us an update as to what you have and what you
That's
know
fine.
about the case.
I have no problem
So
giving
can you
updates
complete-
whenever you want.
Do we want to put a deadline? When do you think you can complete that initial
That is
analysis?
inappropriate to put.
That's not,
That is inappropriate to put in the motion. We can say.
We
you
were
can
already
send
out of
an email.
compliance
Well,
with 2.44.
I'm not saying
you
that.
asked
I'm
me a
saying
question, so let me
inappropriate.
finish answering. Again, my analysis will simply say to you, this is an incomplete analysis and it cannot be conducted because we do not have all the evidence before us to look at. That's what my analysis
Okay, and
would
that's
say.
fine. We don't
What
need to know
So
that.
if you
What
want to
is-
compel me to do an analysis for you, I will do it,
what
but it
is-
will say, we don't have enough information to do an analysis.
Okay, so what information do you have? You tell us. on
Right now,
record.
all we have is the disposition letters that are public record. So we don't have any of the case files that led to those disposition conversations.
So I was.
You have the OPS public hearing though, too, right?
No, the public hearing, correct?
Yes, you have all those,
yes.
the testimony of those things. We don't have the transcript on Carrie Howard. We have the notices. So
We're not
are
taking
you,
any of that
so
out.
how long, we have, I think the body cam is already in, lots of it is in the public domain. What else do you need and when do you?
I
expect to
need
get it?
OPS to finish and adjudicate this case because
Why
my
is that when
analysis will also say
Well,
that we may be jumping due process, and I stand by that.
So
And Martin
when-
and I have discussed this, that it would
All
be
right,
inappropriate for
that
us
is
to
fine.
move this case
That is
forward
fine, but
until
from
it's
Mr.
completed
Tolbert's
at the other
perspective,
place.
That is fine. I don't think due process should be used in that case, but when does CPRB expect to rule on the departure?
That is an unknown. I can't speak for CPR.
So are we planning as a commission, I'm asking, if we wait forever, is that an acceptable response to Mr. Tolbert's petition?
So it is not that we are not waiting
have
forever,
waited-
but what we are saying is there are existential factors that we do not have any control over. Excuse me, we do not have any control over when CPRB moves on. We cannot throw an arbitrary date out there that does not make sense. What we can do though is say that our executive director will follow up and re-amend those requests. That's what we can say. We can say that this is going to be open
I think,
and transparent. We can say that we will provide
Mhm.
updates every step of the way after this meeting and at a different time. Because right now, the things that you are dictating to it, the executive director he's our employee. We don't need to do that right now in a motion. Send him an email and say, hey, in your initial assessment, I know you might not have all the records, but these are things that I'm hoping you can put in there. You can send that to him in an email as he is someone that you help employ. You can send that
I understand it, but
an official request from a supervisor to an employee after this meeting. That is not appropriate for right now. That has nothing to do with the motion.
it
We are
doesn't-
voting
point of
on
order,
our
Susan.
stuff. We are, right now, we're
You
voting
don't
on
call points.
this.
It's like, we do have an issue because it's not about Mr. Goodrick, because he was actually not necessarily just the only one that was supposed to do this now as a staff and like legal.
So we can,
counsel. We are-
again, that can be
But
put in a
the issue
written
is
email
here.
after
Let me
this meeting.
provide some historical context because you offered before, if I may, about CPRB. They have not, so this rule for CPRB, they've always had some kind of ability to just disagree with the safety director or chief. Now they actually have final authority under Charter 154. And that has been
And
in
so,
place, let me finish. That has been in place since November 21st, wherever
Yes.
issue 24 has passed. Their argument right now is that they have not updated their manual and therefore they cannot overrule the safety.
And so what I am now saying
So
is we do
when-
not have
But
any control.
Let me finish that. We do have control because we have final authority over discipline, and we also can intercede at any point in the disciplinary process. So I'm asking you, do you expect Mr. Tolbert, as a citizen, to wait for CPRB to update their manual, which is already now in contradiction with the law, in order to see his case? I would be thrilled if CPRB re-adjudicated, they are not re-adjudicated, they're just looking at, all they need to do is to look at Director Howard's transcript and see if there is clear
Commissioner Wong,
dependency.
we do
There
not
is.
need to talk about what they need to do.
But
What
my
I am
point
gonna
is
say-
but that impacts, I'm not done yet, I have time to speak. When is it that are we gonna say that's acceptable? Are we gonna wait?
So I'm going to answer your question. This is what I will say to that. One, nobody should ever have to wait for justice, okay? Because that is against what our American values is for. Our court system is that we deliver swift and accurate justice, okay? So don't say that. That's not what anyone is saying. What we are saying is, for the sake of this meeting, for the sake of this, we need to get this motion voted on so that we can start the process of Mr. Tolbert receiving the justice that he needs. In the event that another government body is not acting or not fulfilling the duties that you, Commissioner Wong, feels that they should be fulfilling as a citizen of Cleveland and as a member of the commission and whatever personal authority you have, there are other channels that are more appropriate for you to address your concerns about those other government agencies and bodies. But that is not relevant to what we are doing right now. We're talking about what we can control. I understand that you want a specific date. But that is another government entity, a government body that we do not control. We do not control.
Final authority over discipline.
We have
so
final
we do.
authority over discipline, but not other government bodies.
So
And
we
if you
can
feel,
intercede. Do you
and
feel that
if you feel as an individual commissioner this strongly
I don't
that
feel
another,
strongly, I just-
about another, I'm
asking-
finishing now. So if you feel so strongly as an individual commissioner and a citizen of this city that another government body is not fulfilling the duties that is set forth in the charter or of this city, you have every right to follow more appropriate avenues and channels to handle that conflict. But this one, at this moment, that is not what we're talking about. We have no control over them. We're talking about the context of this motion. We have said we are not going to put a date on something that we can't speak to in the future. We have offered suggestions of an amendment. We have gone over past 10 minutes. So at this point, where it is 8:35,
So I
you
will-
have two options. We can either accept those amendments that we have said that we will be in agreement with, or you can have this complete motion tabled and we can close out this meeting. Those are the only two options.
It's always
What?
good to play nice with other entities of the city.
I agree
So-
with the
And-
city.
And that no matter what, you might get a better cooperation from
So what
anybody.
is- but-
When you're nice to them, everybody plays nice in the sandbox and doesn't resort to he said, she said, or all this other bullshit.
False accusations.
I'm not saying, I'm not going there. I'm just saying, everybody has to put their ego in check if you want to be a leader and listen to everybody. And everybody's not going to agree with you. Everybody, we're all diverse here, right, comrades? We have diversity of opinion and different backgrounds and everything else. We're not always going
So-
to agree, but we need to respect each other.
So I
And
have
go
to,
through the, and
I
go
have,
through
but
the
I'm,
process.
I'm going to ask again. Mr. Goodrick, if you can answer the question, have CPRB departed from the safety director or chief in the 2.5 years since the charter has been passed? And please give me their reasoning for why they haven't, because it's clear
I
in the
can't
charter
speak
has.
for CPRB and I'm unprepared to give you the statistics on that. So,
But you
So
said differently before. Have they ever? You're the
so are you
somebody-
saying you're asking me if the CPRB has ever departed from,
have they, they're on public record saying that because of
yes,
their manual,
they've sent letters from the chief to appeal to the safety director.
they've sent letters to appeal.
Yes, that's how their manual says they're supposed to do it now. So
They've
that's
sent
what they
letters to appeal, but have they invoked their final authority under Charter 154?
They have
Commissioner
not
Wayne,
used one for-
At this point, we are past
So
The
I don't
time of this
know.
meeting.
I think that the committee has winnowed this motion down to absolute obsolescence here. And we are not invoking, what I see is that we are not invoking any of our authority to intercede. It is very disappointing to me for both citizens that we are not going to be willing to do this in a board and transparent manner, and to also enact our authority under
Commissioner
so
Wang.
I will withdraw this motion actually.
All right. So at this moment, at
And I will be
8:37,
making this motion at the full commission.
and you
It's
have
locked
every
again.
right to do that.
It was
At
locked.
this point, 8:37, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
And sorry, I want to say that the next meeting will be on the 13th. Are we okay with looking at Ms. Johnson's case at that point on the 13th? That is our
This meeting
regular
is over.
schedule, our regular schedule.
The meeting
Are we
will just
adjourned or
adjourn.
not
We're
adjourned?
not
Adjourned.
adjourned, we're not adjourned yet, but are we okay with, do we want to schedule another special meeting for Ms. Johnson
Send
and
me
the
an
other?
email.
Or do we want, our next meeting is on the 13th? Okay, all right.
I guess it depends on how long it's gonna take to go through your records. and that-
Well, it doesn't
This
seem
meeting
that
is
it's
adjourned.
Martin, should I cut the public record or not cut it? Are we adjourned or not
Are
adjourned?
we adjourned?
We are adjourned.
We are meeting on the
Yeah, we
13th.
called it.
Okay.
We've been called adjourned.
Yeah.